Chapter 391. Luo Jiuyo smiled. According to the sect's rules, an elder with authority can be given a grade 3 flying boat. Although you won't be taking up a position in the sect, you'll still receive the same treatment as a manager of the refining hall. Coincidentally, I'll leave the flying boat that Elder Wang Jian is using to you. Wang Daoyuan thanked Luo Jiuyo again, and the three returned to the Jade Spring Peak. Aside from the sect's elder medallion, Luo Jiuyo and the 12th uncle each received a low-grade grade 3 flying sword. The 12th uncle's flying sword was of the water attribute, while Luo Jiuyo's flying sword was of the metal attribute. It was called the Baleful Life-Severing Sword. When this magic artifact was refined, some baleful gold was added, causing the entire magic artifact to emit a strong baleful aura. The Baleful Life-Severing Sword was a rare offensive magic artifact in the hands of an ordinary Violet Palace realm cultivator. Nothing can be considered water when one has crossed the sea, and nothing can be considered clouds when one has crossed the Wu Mountain. After obtaining the White Tiger Blade, other flying swords of the metal attribute were no longer pleasing to the eye. This flying sword was just a dispensable substitute. The Violet Palace realm's grand ceremony, Patriarch's Ascension, and Patriarch's marriage were set to be held 3 months later. After all, there were a lot of things to prepare for when all 4 of them were done at the same time. The third brother, Wang Daochong, was in charge of these matters. The 3 Violet Palace realm cultivators didn't need to worry about the other elders. Luo Jiuyo continued to modify the dragonfish's natal artifact, while the 12th uncle began to refine his own profound dragon seatfall sword. The materials required to refine the profound dragon seatfall sword didn't require much effort. Luo Jiuyo had collected plenty of materials in the past, ranging from the low-grade grade 3 to the high-grade grade 4. The 12th uncle wouldn't lack materials even if he refined his natal artifact to the high-grade grade 4. Even Wang Daoyuan felt a wave of envy. This was the same benefit as the ancestor's Violet Palace phenomenon. Now that he had obtained the Netherworld sect's permission to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill, there was no need to keep the golden-striped tiger's corpse. Although a third-grade demonic beast's body wouldn't rot after a few decades, its spiritual energy would slowly drain away. Luo Jiuyo's residence's Luo Jiuyo's natal artifact. Previously, when he had killed him, he had used the soul-extinguishing bell to injure his soul and used the sword qi to injure his internal organs. Hu Pai was also beaten black and blue by the White Tiger Blade Dharma idol. However, the tiger skin was not damaged. If it was mended, it could still be used for refining weapons. Its inner core and tiger bone were perfectly preserved, but its internal organs were damaged and its blood essence was lost. When hunting rank 3 demonic beasts, one could use their Niden to replace the true elemental fruit and blood essence to replace the blood jade ginseng. If he ran out of essence blood, he could just use the blood jade ginseng. He did not lack this thing. In the space of the spirit pearl, he had already collected 6 batches of true essence fruits, and there were even more blood jade ginseng. In the past few years, he had refined quite a few building foundation dawn. Using the true essence fruit to refine, his success rate had reached 80%. Now that it was the inner core of a demonic beast, it was hard to say. A demonic beast's inner core contained a lot of impurities, such as remnant soul essences, a small amount of blood essence, and some blood stains. It needed to go through several processes before it could be used to refine pills. Apart from the Zhenyuan fruit tree, the family had planted all the other Foundation Establishment pills and spiritual herbs, so the Netherworld sect couldn't say anything. After all, Wang Daoyuan would go to the Heaven/Mountain range when he had nothing to do. Although the blood jade ginseng and the dragon crouching vine were rare, they were not to the extent of being hard to find in 1,000 years like the true essence fruit tree. As long as one dared to go deep into the Heaven/Mountain range, it was not impossible for a late-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator to find these 2 spiritual herbs after a few decades. Although there was an additional process of processing the inner core, Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense was strong and there were no problems. A cauldron of Foundation Establishment pills was quickly refined, and 7 pills were produced, which was still considered normal. Before opening the cauldron, Wang Daoyuan reported to Yang Yong that he was going to refine the Foundation Establishment pill. Now that the refinement was completed, he still had to report the results. The Netherworld sect's ability to keep secrets was a little low. On the second day after Wang Daoyuan reported the results of the refinement, several family heads came to visit, including the Shen family of Alchemy Celestial Mountain in the central part of Qingli County. Yang Yong personally came to get the 2 pills that he needed to sell to the Netherworld sect, and he also brought Yang Ziyuan along. Yang Yulin was originally the successor of the Yang family, and should have inherited the position of patriarch long ago. Now, in order to let him cultivate properly, Yang Yong did not let him take the position of patriarch, and prioritized cultivation. If there were any matters, it was still Yang Xuan, the old patriarch who was nearing the end of his life, who rushed back and forth. Liang Jiaxing also came to the Wang family in the name of visiting his daughter. Wang Daochong led everyone to the auditorium, where Wang Daoyuan received everyone. After everyone was seated, Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "I presume that all the family heads are here for the foundation establishment pill. This Wang is untalented and only refined 7 foundation establishment pills this time. According to the new rules of the Netherworld sect, 2 of them need to be sold to the sect at a fair price. The Wang family will keep 2, and the other 3 can be exchanged." Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up. Of these 3 foundation establishment pills to be exchanged, 2 would definitely belong to the Yang family and the 2 families. Needless to say, the Yang family had hundreds of years of friendship with the Wang family, and the 2 families had always been connected by marriage. Wang Daoyuan was half a Yang family member, and the Yang family's Yang Yuqing was going to marry the next patriarch of the Wang family. Even old ancestor Yang came personally, who dared to compete with him. The Liang family also had a marriage alliance with the Wang family, and a foundation establishment cultivator was married into the Wang family. It was reasonable to leave 1 foundation establishment pill for the Liang family. Moreover, the Liang family still had 6 foundation establishment cultivators. This strength was second only to the Wang and Yang families in the north and central parts of Qingli County. The others still had a chance to compete for the 3rd foundation establishment pill. Saying so, Wang Daoyuan took out 2 jade boxes and handed them to Yang Yong, saying, "These are the 2 foundation establishment pills sold to the sect at a fair price. Please inspect them, old ancestor Yang." Yang Yong did not even look at them, and put away the jade boxes, and handed a storage bag to Wang Daoyuan, saying with a smile, "I don't trust others, but how can I not trust my own descendants?" Then, Wang Daoyuan took out 3 more jade boxes, saying, "These 3 foundation establishment pills will be exchanged by the various patriarchs." The others looked at Yang Xuan, and he cupped his hands, saying, "The Yang family is willing to pay 60,000 spirit stones for 1 foundation establishment pill." Wang Daoyuan naturally had no objections, and nodded. Wang Daochong handed a jade box to Yang Xuan, and took the storage bag that Yang Xuan handed over. Liang Jiaxing used 70,000 spirit stones to exchange for the 2nd foundation establishment pill. After the exchange between the 2 families, the remaining foundation establishment pill was up to the other families to compete. The various patriarchs were also very tactful, and knew that they were not qualified to compete with the Yang and Liang families, so they naturally did not dare to take out spirit stones. Now, the Wang family's net income was 200,000 to 300,000 spirit stones a year. Wang Daoyuan had already received 230,000 spirit stones for this cauldron of foundation establishment pills. Foundation establishment pills were a scarce resource, and naturally could not be exchanged for spirit stones. Some of these patriarchs took out magic artifacts, some took out spirit talismans, and some took out spells and the like. There were also some who took out precious refining materials. Unfortunately, none of them could enter Wang Daoyuan's eyes. Alchemy Celestial Mountain Shen family's patriarch, Shen Hongchuan, cupped his hands and said, "Elder Wang, this junior's ancestor once obtained a refining method for a level 3 spirit talisman. It's just that the Shen family does not have a level 3 spirit talisman inheritance, and no one can refine it. This spirit talisman refining method has always been kept. This time, I'm willing to use this spirit talisman refining method to exchange for foundation establishment pills. I only hope that after Elder Wang refines the spirit talisman, you can sell a few to my Shen family." Wang Daoyuan was immediately interested. Since Shen Hongchuan was so serious, then this level 3 spirit talisman was definitely not a basic spirit talisman. He asked, "I wonder what Patriarch Shen's spirit talisman is called, and which faction it belongs to." When Shen Hongchuan heard this, he knew that Wang Daoyuan was tempted, and immediately replied, "Replying Elder Wang, this spirit talisman is of the magic talisman lineage, called the Golden Lightning Demon Exterminating Talisman." Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Even if they did not know the Tao of spirit communication talismans, they still had some understanding of spirit talisman lineage. Magic talismans had the greatest explosive power, and their refining materials were the simplest. Although they could not be used repeatedly, They were the simplest to refine. And this golden lightning demon exterminating talisman, one could tell that it was a lightning talisman from its name. The power of lightning talismans had always been ranked first among spirit talismans of the same level. To a Foundation Establishment family clan, a low-grade level 3 lightning talisman could completely be used as a clan-suppressing treasure. Chapter 392. Magic talismans could be refined with ordinary talisman paper. Wang Daoyuan didn't lack talisman paper, spirit ink, or talisman brushes. After learning the refining method of the Golden Thunder Demon Destroying Talisman, he could quickly refine it. Any kind of third-rank Thunder Talisman of the Magic Talisman lineage was much stronger than the basic 5 elements Godly Sword Talisman. Wang Daoyuan smiled. If your refining method of the Golden Thunder Demon Destroying Talisman is complete, you can exchange it for a Foundation Establishment pill. In the future, I can sell you 5 talismans. Overjoyed, Shen Hongchuan hurriedly replied, "This refining method is indeed complete. There are all kinds of refining methods from 3rd rank low grade to 3rd rank high grade." It didn't matter whether he had the refining method of 3rd rank high grade talismans or not. There wasn't much difference between 3rd rank low grade and 3rd rank high grade talismans. As long as he knew the refining method of 3rd rank low grade talismans, he could deduce the refining method of 3rd rank high grade talismans. Of course, it was even better to have it. He could save a lot of time. Wang Daochong took out a jade box and handed it to Shen Hongchuan. Shen Hongchuan also took out 3 jade slips and handed them to Wang Daoyuan through Wang Daochong. Wang Daoyuan took out a jade slip and used his spiritual sense to read the information inside. He nodded and said, "There's no problem with this thing. It's indeed the refining method of 3rd rank Thunder Talismans." After the 3 Foundation Establishment pills were exchanged, a Foundation Establishment cultivator asked, "May I ask Elder Wang, if we collect the materials to refine the Foundation Establishment pills ourselves, can we ask Senior to help us refine them?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "As long as I'm free, I can help you refine them. I can do it for free, but no matter how many Foundation Establishment pills are produced, I'll only give you 5 at most. The rest belong to me." The 2 pills that the Netherworld sect bought at a fair price are also among the 5 pills. If there are no more than 5 pills, I won't take any. Even if a cauldron of Foundation Establishment pills was refined from a demonic beast's inner core, the cost was only a little more than 100,000 spirit stones. As long as there were 3 Foundation Establishment pills, they could guarantee that they wouldn't suffer a loss. Wang Daoyuan agreed to give them 5 pills. If 2 were sold to the Netherworld sect, they could still get 3 Foundation Establishment pills. If it was handed over to an ordinary alchemist, it would already be considered good if they could produce 3 or 4 building Foundation pills. If the Netherworld sect bought 2 of them, there would still be 1 or 2 left. Even so, the alchemist still had to charge several tens of thousands of spirit stones. It was still the most cost-effective to find Wang Daoyuan to refine pills. Wang Daoyuan was naturally very happy to help others refine pills. He didn't need to waste any effort to collect the ingredients. He only needed to process the ingredients to refine the pills. It wouldn't be a problem for him to refine a cauldron of Foundation Establishment pills a day, and he could get 2 or 3 Foundation Establishment pills, which were worth more than 100,000 spirit stones. Earning hundreds of thousands of spirit stones in a day was not something that all Golden Core cultivators could do. After the exchange of Foundation Establishment pills was finished, everyone dispersed. Wang Daoyuan also returned to his abode to study the Golden Thunder Demon Exterminating Talisman. This Shen Hongchuan really knew how to do business. The Shen family didn't have a rank 3 talisman master, so there was no value in keeping the refining method of the Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman. He took it out to exchange for a Foundation Establishment pill and the right to buy 5 talismans. The Shen family could still keep a copy of the refining method, and they would not suffer any losses. As for the 5 talismans, if properly stored, it wouldn't be a problem to preserve them for 700 to 800 years. With these 5 talismans, no Foundation Establishment cultivator would dare to provoke the Shen family within 700 to 800 years. Of course, Wang Daoyuan also made a huge profit. Previously, he only had the refining method of rank 3 basic talismans. The Tao of talismans was already of little help to him. Now that he had the Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman, he had an extremely powerful means to deal with enemies. It could also increase the family's foundation. Talismans were very similar to rank 3 talismans, but the runes were extremely complicated. It was very difficult to refine and consumed a lot of spiritual sense. With the power of Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense, he could only refine 2 or 3 talismans a day. After trying more than 20 times, he finally succeeded in refining a Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman. He went to the west of the Jade Spring Peak, where there were few people, and tested its power. After detonating the Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman, a golden lightning bolt as thick as a water bucket appeared above the talisman. When the golden lightning struck the ground, sparks flew in all directions, leaving behind a huge pit with a diameter of 300 meters and a depth of over 30 meters. There was no need to talk about the speed of the lightning technique. Those below the Violet Palace realm wouldn't be able to dodge it even if they grasped a high-grade movement art. Early Violet Palace realm cultivators also wouldn't be able to dodge the attack without a movement art. The might of the Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman was roughly 20 times that of the Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman. It was enough to threaten the life of an early Violet Palace realm cultivator. If a peak foundation establishment cultivator was struck by it, there was almost no chance of survival. To allow a foundation establishment clan to possess the strength to threaten a Violet Palace realm cultivator, it wouldn't be excessive to sell a talisman for 30 to 50,000 spirit stones, right? However, this item couldn't be sold in large quantities. The raw materials weren't easy to obtain. After refining a few and placing them in the clan's treasury, it would be more or less enough to be used as a trump card. 2 months quickly passed. During this period of time, Wang Daoyuan had been refining the Golden Thunder Demon Extermination Talisman. He refined 2 to 3 times a day, but only managed to refine 30 or so talismans. The success rate was less than 20%. The day of the Violet Palace Grand Ceremony quickly arrived. Wang Daoyuan, on the other hand, didn't need to go out to socialize. He and his 12th uncle sat in the hall. The task of receiving the guests from the Violet Palace realm was also handed over to his 5th uncle. He had to admit that his 5th uncle's idea of holding 4 joyous events at once was pretty good. He only needed to prepare once to receive 4 gifts. Since the 4 joyous events were held at once, the various factions were embarrassed to use 4 low-grade gifts to make up the numbers. There were quite a few factions that took out 3rd-grade spiritual items, and there were over a dozen factions that came to present gifts. Over 90% of the clans in the Clearglass County were present. Needless to say, the clans in the northern part of the Haeong County had been doing business for many years. It was impossible for them not to come at this time. Even some of the old clans in the other counties came to present gifts. After all, the Wang clan had 3 Violet Palace realms and all of them had the potential to form a golden core. They were already the strongest among the old clans. Wang Daoyuan was only 120 years old, and he was already a steward. Furthermore, he was highly regarded by the sect master. His future was limitless. In the eyes of some of the clans, he was already the leader of the clan. On the Netherworld sect side, 3 groups of cultivators came to congratulate them. Elder Xueqi represented the Netherworld sect master to congratulate them. He gave over 10 violet rhythm pills and a few 3rd-grade magic artifacts. Su Tingxian represented the refining hall's hallmaster to congratulate his colleagues and also gave them 3rd-grade magic artifacts. He was recommended by Hallmaster Gu and obtained the qualifications to establish a Violet Palace realm together with the old drunkard. Both of them succeeded, and Su Tingxian was now the steward of the refining hall. There was also the Netherworld sect's elder Luo Xianming. He was Wang Daolong's master, and he came personally to congratulate them. The gifts he gave were nothing more than 3rd-grade magic artifacts, pills, and basic 3rd-grade spiritual talismans. The other clans also sent some refining materials. Finally, a Violet Palace realm cultivator came from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. 8th uncle announced the gift list: the Divine Weapon Pavilion's Taoist Lei Yen, 2 high-grade 3rd-grade magic artifacts, 6 mid-grade 3rd-grade magic artifacts, and 10 low-grade 3rd-grade magic artifacts. Taoist Lei Yen was really honest. He gave out piles of magic artifacts. When the other guests heard the contents of the gift list, they were dumbfounded. A pile of 3rd-grade magic artifacts, and 2 high-grade 3rd-grade magic artifacts. 5th uncle invited the guest into the hall. The guest cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan and said, "I am He Yuan Qing, Taoist Lei Yan's in-name disciple. Junior brother Wang Daoyuan's cultivation has reached the pinnacle of foundation establishment, and he's currently in seclusion to comprehend the Violet Palace realm. Master has ordered me to congratulate you on behalf of junior brother Daoyin." Wang Daoyuan stood up and returned the greeting. "Thank you for coming, Daoyu. Please take a seat." He Yuanqing smiled. "There's no need to be so polite. Master said that junior brother Yuan learned his refining insights and the divine sky-burning art, so he can be considered half a disciple. Junior brother Daoyin will be able to establish a Violet Palace realm in at most 8 years. When the time comes, please come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion for a gathering." When Xueqi and Luo Xianming heard this, their faces changed. Since Taoist Lei Yan intended to take Wang Daoyuan as his disciple, he might go to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. This would be a huge loss for the Netherworld sect. Wang Daoyuan and his brother had both entered the Divine Weapon Pavilion, and the Wang clan was the dominant clan in Clearglass County. In the future, would Clearglass County belong to the Netherworld sect or the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Chapter 393. When the other cultivators heard He Yuanqing's words, they began to ponder in their hearts. Wang Daoyin was already at the pinnacle of the Foundation Establishment realm and was Taoist Lei Yan's favorite disciple. He only became Taoist Lei Yan's disciple when he was in his 40s and wasted 30 years of his cultivation. Now, he was only 110 years old and was about to establish the Violet Palace. With such talent and Taoist Lei Yan's favor, it wouldn't be a problem for him to form the Golden Core. Now that Taoist Lei Yan had the intention to take Wang Daoyuan in, everyone started to have doubts. Everyone knew about Wang Daoyuan's talent. It had been 10,000 years since a penta-spiritual root cultivator formed the Golden Core. However, Wang Daoyuan was a little abnormal. He was proficient in alchemy, artifact, and talisman arrays and could establish the Violet Palace so quickly. Even the Netherworld sect master said that he had great potential and even surpassed Taoist Yuchuan. Coupled with Wang Shui, the Wang clan might have 3 Golden Core cultivators in the future. Wang Daoyuan didn't take it seriously and cupped his hands. "My younger brother is naughty. Thank you for your efforts. I will definitely head to the Divine Weapon Pavilion when the time comes." With everyone present, the ceremony officially began. First was the Violet Palace Grand Ceremony. Fifth great-uncle read out a eulogy in front of the ancestral shrine and praised Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui. Then, the two of them paid respects to their ancestors. After these procedures were completed, Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui successively spoke of their comprehensions towards the Violet Palace realm. There were a dozen Violet Palace realm cultivators who came to congratulate them, and they also spoke about their comprehension. There were 160 Foundation Establishment realm cultivators present. A dozen Violet Palace realm cultivators spoke about the Tao and 100 Foundation Establishment realm cultivators listened. This scene could only be seen in major sects and it had never happened in a Violet Palace realm clan. Some of the Wang clan's juniors weren't idle either. Wang Daochang brought a few Foundation Establishment realm cultivators and 30 Qi Refinement realm cultivators to the Yang clan's Great Wood Peak. After the Tao lecture, Wang Daochang also returned. When everyone entered the hall, 5th great-uncle and 12th uncle sat on the main seats. Wang Daoyuan was the master of ceremonies, guiding the newlyweds through the ceremony. After the ceremony, the newlyweds entered the bridal chamber. Of course, the third brother, Wang Daochang, could not enter the bridal chamber so quickly. There was still the clan head handover ceremony. The patriarch handover ceremony was no different from when the 12th uncle took over. 5th great-uncle read out the eulogy, praising the 12th uncle for transforming the clan from a Foundation Establishment clan to a Violet Palace realm clan with 3 Violet Palace realm cultivators and a dozen Foundation Establishment cultivators. The 12th uncle was simply taking advantage of the situation. All these years, he had been a hands-off boss. Wang Daoyuan was the one who did most of the business. It was thanks to 5th great-uncle that they were able to clear out the 100 Spirit Mountain and take over 10% of the 100 Spirit Mountain's businesses. The specific matters were handled by the third brother, Wang Daochang. All he did was clean up the demonic beasts in Fallen Dragon Ridge. He did nothing else. After the eulogy was read out, the 12th uncle handed the Stormy Wave Sword and the Patriarch Seal to Wang Daochang. The Patriarch succession ceremony was also over. Now, there was only the banquet left. The Wang family's restaurant was famous in Qingli County. Their wine and dishes were naturally to the satisfaction of the guests. Luo Xianming and Xueqi, who were sitting at the front, were currently conversing with each other. Xueqi asked, "What do you think about Lei Yan wanting to take Wang Daoyuan as his disciple?" Luo Xianming replied, "If this succeeds, our Netherworld sect will lose a talent. If Wang Daoyuan and his brother reach the Golden Core realm in the future, our Netherworld sect will not dare to interfere with the Wang family's business. The Wang family's current business has already expanded to half of Qingli County. Previously, the sect master had relaxed the restrictions on the Wang family's flying boats. The Wang family's business will soon expand to the southern part of Qingli County. Wang Daoyuan also suggested that the sect master let go of his control over the Foundation Establishment Pill. With his strength, the rank 3 demonic beasts in the Sky-Split Mountain range are materials for him to refine the Foundation Establishment Pill. If this continues, Qingli County will become the Wang family's territory. Previously, when the sect master let Wang Daoyuan take up a position in the artifact refining hall, a group of idiots opposed it. Now it's troublesome. Xueqi pondered for a moment and said, "We have to report this matter to the sect master. We can't just watch as the Wang family escapes our control." Luo Xianming nodded and took out a communication jade talisman. Holding it in his hand, he began to send a message to the sect master. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense was stronger than that of ordinary Middle Zifu realm cultivators. He sensed the two's divine sense fluctuations. However, he couldn't say it out loud. He could only pretend that he didn't notice and continue to entertain the other Zifu realm cultivators. After 2 hours, everyone had eaten and drank to their heart's content and took their leave. The 3 Zifu realm cultivators from the Netherworld sect continued to stay, unwilling to leave. After everyone else left, the third brother and Wang Daocheng also went to the bridal chamber. Only the 3 Zifu realm cultivators from the Wang family and the 3 from the Netherworld sect remained in the assembly hall. Fifth great-uncle cupped his hands and said, "What other matters do the 3 elders have?" Su Tingxian and Zhou Qi both looked at Luo Xianming. After all, he was a member of the sect master's clan and had the highest status. Luo Xianming smiled. "It's nothing major. I just have an official matter and a private matter to discuss with Steward Wang. Let's talk about official matters first. The sect master wants to know about the Golden Lightning Demon Exterminating Talisman, so he sent me to convey his message. Because the Lightning Talisman is effective against many cultivators in our sect, the sect master hopes that the Wang family won't casually sell this talisman, lest it be used against the Netherworld sect. The Netherworld sect's legacies mainly focused on the Tao of corpses and ghosts. A low-grade 3rd-grade Golden Lightning Demon Exterminating Talisman had a chance of heavily injuring a Middle Zifu realm ghost cultivator. If this talisman was sold in large quantities, the Netherworld sect's Zifu realm cultivators would have to keep one eye open in the future. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "That's not a problem. This talisman definitely won't be sold in large quantities. Besides, the success rate of refining this talisman is extremely low. The Wang family doesn't have enough 3rd-grade talisman paper and spirit ink, so we don't have the ability to sell them in large quantities. We promise to sell 5 talismans to the Shen family and won't sell them to anyone else. May I know what Elder Luo's personal matter is?" Luo Xianming replied, "Selling 5 talismans to the Shen family isn't a big deal. This is a private matter that Hongming wants me to ask. Is the soul of the golden-striped tiger that Steward Wang killed still around? He just established his Violet Palace not long ago, and his Violet Palace phenomenon is the Nether River Ghost Tiger. He needs the soul of a 3rd-grade tiger-type demon beast to refine his natal magic artifact. If the soul is still there, I'm willing to buy it for 100,000 spirit stones. If Steward Wang is willing to sell the golden-striped tiger's body, I'm willing to buy it for 200,000 spirit stones. What do you think, Steward Wang?" The soul of a 3rd-grade demon beast could be used to refine a wicked magic artifact or a soul talisman. Wang Daoyuan didn't care about wicked magic artifacts, and he didn't have the method to refine a soul talisman. There was no point in keeping the golden-striped tiger's soul since he wanted to sell it anyway. The golden-striped tiger's body could be used to refine many 3rd-grade magic artifacts. However, the Wang family didn't lack 3rd-grade magic artifacts, and refining them would be useless. It would only be valuable if it was used to refine a combined magic artifact. However, he didn't know how to refine a combined magic artifact. Wang Daoyuan replied, "Luo Hongming, Daoyu and I are old acquaintances. If he needs something, I have no objections. I'll give the golden-striped tiger's body and soul to you, Elder Luo." He took out a spirit beast pouch and a profound jade gourd and gave them to Luo Xianming. He couldn't bear to give away the soul-capturing bottle. Instead, he stored the golden-striped tiger's soul in a profound jade gourd. The profound Yin jade gourd contained a lot of Yin qi and baleful qi that could be used to temporarily preserve the soul. Luo Xianming took the spirit beast pouch and the profound Yin jade gourd and said, "I thank Steward Wang on behalf of Hongming." He then handed a storage pouch to Wang Daoyuan. There were 300,000 spirit stones inside. After the transaction, Luo Xianming was stunned for a moment before he took out a communication jade talisman. He used his divine sense to read the message and said with a smile, "The sect master has another order. He wants to discuss it with Steward Wang." Chapter 394. Wang Daoyuan bowed and said, "If sect master has any instructions, Elder Luo can speak frankly." Luo Xianming nodded and said, "I won't hide it from you. Previously, I reported the matter of Venerable Lei Yan wanting to take you in as a disciple to the sect master. The sect leader wants me to ask what Steward Wang plans to do. Should I reject spiritual master Lei Yan's good intentions, or should I leave the Netherworld sect and join the Divine Weapon Pavilion?" Wang Daoyuan laughed. "I think Elder Luo and sect master have misunderstood. If it was before, I still had the possibility of joining the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Now, I'm an elder of the Netherworld sect. If Taoist Lei Yan were to let me join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, it would be the same as snatching someone from the Netherworld sect. This would go against the Divine Weapon Pavilion's rule of not interfering with the affairs of local powers. I'm sure Elder Luo knows about my brother-in-law's marriage. He wanted to marry my sister into the Divine Weapon Pavilion, but was stopped. Taoist Thunderflame fought with the other elders of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, but in the end, didn't he still have to marry into the Wang family? He is a disciple personally raised by Taoist Lei Yan, and even he cannot make the Divine Weapon Pavilion break the rules, let alone me, a disciple who became a disciple halfway through. On top of that, I'm a Penta spiritual roots cultivator and I have a cultivation method that suits me. I can't learn any of Taoist Lei Yan's unique techniques and spells. If I can't inherit Taoist Lei Yan's techniques and spells, what's the point of him taking me in as his disciple? Therefore, Taoist Lei Yan would at most take me in as a disciple in name and give me some pointers in refining, but would not let me join the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Elder Luo, think about it. Our underworld sect's elders have become disciples of Reverend Lei Yan. In the future, if the sect wants to buy some magic tools and the like, wouldn't it be easier to get things done with my connections? As far as I am concerned, joining the Divine Weapon Pavilion would not bring me any benefits. Now that I've already established my Violet Palace, what I need the most is nothing more than spiritual items that can help me form my gold core. Even a top power like the Divine Weapon Pavilion was unable to produce such a thing steadily. The direct descendants of the Jindan elders in the sect, as well as the direct disciples, were not enough. Would they give it to an outsider like me? To put it bluntly, Taoist Thunderflame was not far from 900 years old. He only had 100 years left to live. Before he passes away, neither Dao Yi nor I will be able to form our gold core. After the end of his lifespan, my brother's position in the Divine Weapon Pavilion was a little awkward, let alone me. In the Netherworld sect, I was appreciated by the sect master and hall master Gu. Elder Luo, you're also my big brother's master. Dao Yu, Luo Hongming, and I are old acquaintances. There's also a large group of old cultivators who have good relations with our Wang clan. Elder Jean was able to become the vice hall master of the punishment hall, and become one of the upper echelons of the sect. With my talent, my achievements shouldn't be lower than Elder Jin's, right? There was not much point in entering the Divine Weapon Pavilion. He would lose his connections and future in the Netherworld sect for nothing. I would be a fool to do that. Elder Luo, please pass on my words to the sect master. I have no intention of betraying the sect. Luo Xianming pondered for a moment after hearing this, before he said, Manager Wang is right. I'll pass your words to the sect leader. I still have important matters to attend to in the sect, so I'll take my leave now. Wang Daoyuan and the other two escorted them out of the mountain. The next day, the new and old patriarchs handed over the account books and other things. The new patriarch had to gather the elders to discuss the future of the clan. After all the elders were present, Wang Daochong walked in energetically. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Third brother's health is good. All the elders burst into laughter. Wang Daochong glanced at him and said, I married Yuqing to block a knife for you. You still have the nerve to make fun of me? Let's see who will be willing to block a knife for you in the future when someone asks you for a marriage alliance. I think you like to block a knife. Wang Daoyuan had a mischievous smile on his face. He has quite a few younger brothers and nephews. Furthermore, there are 2 uncles around. The 12th uncle coughed softly and said, "All right, stop joking. Let's get down to business." Then, he handed a stack of account books and a few jade slips to Wang Daochang. "All right, everything I need to hand over is here. I haven't finished refining my natal magic weapon yet. I'll take my leave first." Everyone stood up and saluted. "We respectfully send Grand Supreme Elder off." Wang Daochang looked at the account books and jade slips and said, "In these years, the clan's population and industry have improved greatly. There are more than 200,000 ordinary clansmen and more than 310 cultivators. The clan's annual income has reached 270,000 spirit stones." Wang Daoyuan was a bit dazed. "I remember the last time we participated in the war. Didn't the clan only have 140 people? It's only been 30 years or so, and it's more than doubled?" The third brother's face was full of joy. "This is all thanks to the population policy you proposed. Most of the clan's cultivators over the age of 70 have already married and taken in concubines. They have at least 3 or 4 children, and there are many clansmen with more than 10 children. Now, there are more than 300 descendants of cultivators under the age of 10. Among them, there should be 50 to 60 cultivators. At present, there are more than 70 cultivators with the Dao character in the clan, and more than 10 of them have already passed away. There are more than 140 cultivators with the Yiming character in the clan, and the number will increase greatly in the future. There are already more than 70 cultivators with the Gide character in the clan, and there are still more than 30 cultivators who have married or taken in. In these 30 years, on average, the clan has gained 4 or 5 new cultivators every year. Moreover, the growth rate is still gradually increasing. When the cultivators with the Gide character in the clan grow up again, they'll be able to swallow the entire Fallen Dragon Ridge. Not counting Big Brother and Dao Yin, the clan has 13 foundation establishment cultivators on the surface, more than 20 peak Qi condensation cultivators, and more than 50 late Qi condensation cultivators. In these years, apart from population, the clan has also added a lot of halls. Among them are the Tool Refining Hall, Formation Hall, General Affairs Hall, Spirit Silkworm Hall, 100 Arts Hall, Battle Hall, and Dark Hall. In terms of industry, transportation, spirit silkworms, and restaurants have the highest income, earning more than 50,000 spirit stones every year. Next up is our Wang clan's mining and spirit wood industry, which has always been the largest. Added together, we earn 70,000 to 80,000 spirit stones. Of the 4 pill, tool and talisman industries, apart from the formation industry that doesn't directly make a profit, the other 3 can still earn 10 to 20,000 spirit stones every year. Currently, there are 7 second-rank pill refiners, 6 second-rank talisman masters, 5 second-rank tool refiners, and only 3 second-rank formation masters. Now, 26th Uncle's formation skills have already reached second-rank superior grade. With Zhao Liang's cooperation, he can already refine flying boats. He has also reached foundation establishment, so you don't have to worry about setting up formations and refining flying boats. Now that the Netherworld sect has relaxed the restrictions on flying boats, the next step is to expand their business to the Wanchuan market in the southern part of Qingli County. The clan's reform policies were all formulated by you. Although you didn't care after coming up with the idea, you were the initiator after all. Are you satisfied with the results of the reform? Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "This has already greatly exceeded my expectations. What else is there to be dissatisfied with?" Wang Daochang continued, "You've been the Elder of Punishments for more than 80 years, but you haven't taken care of a single matter of the Hall of Punishments. The 12th Uncle appointed a chief steward to manage the affairs of the Hall of Punishments on your behalf. Now that the Grand Elder is vacant, who do you think is suitable?" Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and said, "Now that we have sufficient manpower, the Grand Elder doesn't have much to do. In addition, Third Brother is in charge. His ability to handle practical matters isn't very strong. The main thing is to know the situation of the clan's various industries. He also has to have enough prestige to convince the other elders. In my opinion, Aunt Jo is not bad." In the early years, Aunt Jo was also known for her valiant strength. In fights of magical powers, she could be on par with 8th Uncle. But after all, she was a water attribute cultivator and didn't have much talent. It just so happened that water attribute cultivators had great talent and first-rate fighting abilities. Without talent, their fighting abilities were extremely poor. She didn't have enough talent. After reaching foundation establishment, her fighting abilities were somewhat stagnant. Thus, she rarely went out these years and basically handled various affairs in the clan. Hearing this, Aunt Jo was a little surprised. I've only managed the Guardian Hall these years and haven't managed the other halls. I don't know how to handle the other halls. Chapter 395. Wang Daocheng smiled and said, "What Dao Yuan said makes sense. Aunt Jo, you've been managing the Guardian Hall all these years and have dealt with various industries. You've also helped me and 12th uncle deal with a lot of affairs. Your ability to deal with affairs is not weak. Only you and 8th uncle have enough prestige. 8th uncle is a bit impatient and isn't suitable to be the Grand Elder. The others don't have enough prestige and won't be able to convince the masses. It's better for you to be the Grand Elder." The other elders also expressed their approval. Aunt Jo was steady and had experience in managing affairs. She was indeed a suitable candidate to be the Grand Elder. Wang Daocheng continued, "Aunt Jo, all the elders support you. You take on this heavy responsibility. If there's something you can't solve, just leave it to me." Aunt Jo nodded and said, "Since all the elders support me, then I'll be the Grand Elder. I'll abdicate when there's a more suitable candidate in the future." Wang Daoyuan got up and said, "Since the Patriarch and Grand Elder have been appointed, I have nothing to do here. The third-ranked demonic beasts have been active in the Fallen Dragon Ridge recently. I'll go there and see if I can get a few more furnaces of Foundation Establishment pills." After saying that, he left the Jade Spring Peak on his sword and headed to the Fallen Dragon Ridge. He wasn't in a hurry to cultivate. Without the Violet Harmony pill, an ordinary Violet Palace Realm cultivator would need 70 to 80 years to reach the mid-stage from the early-stage Violet Palace Realm. If they encountered a bottleneck, it was common for them to not be able to break through in 100 years. Even those with better talent would need about 50 years. Even if there were enough Violet Harmony pills, it would still take 30 years. Before there were enough Violet Harmony pills, cultivating in seclusion wouldn't have any obvious effect. For Wang Daoyuan, the best way to increase his cultivation speed was to find the 5 elemental spiritual fires and use them to form spiritual power seeds. Back then, 5 Elements Daoist refined the Dust Returner Flame into a spiritual power seed and cultivated from the early-stage Golden Core Realm to the peak Golden Core Realm in less than 200 years. If he could find the 5 elemental spiritual fires, cultivating from the early-stage Violet Palace Realm to the peak Violet Palace Realm would be a piece of cake. Unfortunately, he couldn't find any other elemental spiritual fires after obtaining the Gue Water Nether Flame. There wasn't even a rumor about the Metal Elemental Spiritual Fire. There was a lot of information about fire attribute spiritual fire, and even the location of these spiritual fire could be determined. However, Wang Daoyuan did not have the ability to take these spiritual fire. Because the owners of these spiritual flames were all top experts in Beiyuan Xiuxian. Most of them were at the pinnacle of the Golden Core Realm, and some were even half a step into the Yuanying realm. Half-step Yuanying meant that one had grasped the abilities of Yuanying cultivators. They should have been able to form Yuanying, but they were limited by the concentration of spiritual energy and spiritual items in Beiyuan Xiuxian, so they were stuck at the last step. In terms of strength, they were much stronger than those at the peak of the Golden Elixir realm, but they had not reached the point of qualitative change. If the outside world allowed it, they would soon become true Yuanying cultivators. The top forces in Beiyuan Xiuxian all had half-step Yuanying cultivators. With Wang Daoyuan's current strength, he did not even dare to think about the spiritual fire in these people's hands. He also did not dare to ask anyone to find out about the spiritual fire, or he would easily expose the secret of his cultivation technique. He could only ask Zhou Wan to find out where the ancient cultivators who played with fire had left behind cave abodes or tombs. There might be some hope. The most important thing now was to improve his alchemy skills and refine the Purple Rime Elixir and the demon-subduing gourd. The east of Fallen Dragon Ridge was not far from the territory of some rank 3 demon beasts. It was inevitable that some of them would come looking for trouble. With his strength, killing low-grade or mid-grade rank 3 demon beasts was not a big problem. However, it would cause a big commotion and attract other rank 3 demon beasts. With the demon-subduing gourd, he could quickly subdue the demon beasts. The demon beasts subdued by the gourd were captured alive. Their bodies, demon cores, and souls were all intact and could definitely be sold for a good price. He was only a low-grade rank 3 blacksmith now, so he could only refine a low-grade rank 3 demon-subduing gourd. The Xueqi gourds in his dimension were only high-grade rank 2. To refine a low-grade rank 3 demon-subduing gourd, he had to use rank 3 materials. Wang Daoyuan intended to consume some heaven ferocious metal to refine into the gourd to strengthen it. Otherwise, it would be easily destroyed after subduing a rank 3 demon beast. The malevolent aura of the heaven ferocious metal had a certain deterrent effect on souls. When the demon-subduing gourd attacked the souls of demon beasts, it could also play a supporting role. The heaven ferocious metal and grand unity essence gold that Wang Daoyuan put away were both middle-grade rank 3. If the Xueqi gourd could grow to low-grade rank 3, he might be able to refine a middle-grade rank 3 demon-subduing gourd by fusing those two materials. There was no need to consider the tool pattern. A rank 3 blacksmith could use a rank 2 tool pattern to produce a rank 3 tool pattern with the same function. He had refined a rank 2 demon-subduing gourd before, so it was naturally not difficult for him to refine a rank 3 one. It only took him a month to study the tool pattern and refine the gourd. After the demon-subduing gourd was refined, Wang Daoyuan left Fallen Dragon Ridge with it. He used the spirit concealment technique to hide his aura and headed towards the southeast. At the easternmost end of Fallen Dragon Ridge, more than 500 kilometers to the east, there was no spirit vein here, but the concentration of spirit chi was comparable to an upper-grade rank 2 spirit vein. Every 100 to 200 kilometers, he would encounter a rank 3 spirit vein. A rank 3 spirit vein here would definitely have a rank 3 demon beast. Wang Daoyuan released the soul-chasing bees to find a suitable target. Currently, the soul-chasing bee king was already a middle-grade rank 2 spirit insect. Ordinary soul-chasing bees had also become low-grade rank 2 spirit insects. Even so, the honey and even the royal jelly of the soul-chasing bees were no longer useful to Wang Daoyuan. They would not be of much use to help him in battle. However, ordinary soul-chasing bees could fly at a speed of 4,000 kilometers per hour, which was faster than Wang Daoyuan's sword kinesis flight. They were still very valuable to scout the way. After releasing 100 soul-chasing bees to scout the surroundings, most of them returned after 15 minutes. It was normal to lose a few soul-chasing bees in a place where rank 3 demon beasts roamed. The soul-chasing bees found a total of 7 low-grade rank 3 demon beasts within a radius of 500 kilometers. The closest one was the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile more than 100 kilometers to the southeast. This fellow was a dual attribute demon beast of metal and water. Its physical body was extremely strong, and ordinary mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivators would find it difficult to break through its defense. However, its soul was relatively weak among those of the same level. The demon-subduing gourd relied on attacking the soul to subdue demon beasts. It was very suitable to deal with the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile. After trekking more than 100 kilometers to the southeast, there was a small lake with a diameter of more than 300 meters. The profound armored golden-toothed crocodile was sunbathing on the shore of the lake. This fellow was almost 200 meters long, and there were 50 to 60 silver teeth of different lengths in its mouth. The scales on its body were pitch black. Among these teeth, there were more than 10 that could be used to refine flying swords. This set of scales was enough to refine more than 20 sets of defensive soft armor. A rank 3 magic artifact was worth at least 20,000 spirit stones. After killing this fellow, he would get 600,000 to 700,000 spirit stones. It had to be said that if one had the ability to enter the heaven/mountain range to kill demon beasts, they would really earn spirit stones. There were many rank 3 demon beasts around, and one might be beaten up by a group. This was exchanging one's life for spirit stones. Wang Daoyuan concealed his aura and stealthily crept over. When he was half a kilometer away, Wang Daoyuan used the misty cloud escape and flew through the air. In an instant, he arrived in front of the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile and activated the demon-subduing gourd. This fellow's physical strength was too strong. Even if its soul was suppressed, it still had a strong resistance by relying on its physical strength. The demon-subduing gourd didn't have enough stamina and couldn't forcefully store it. Continuing the stalemate wasn't a solution. The white tiger blade would cause too much of a commotion, and he wouldn't be able to kill it if he couldn't hit its vitals. He could only use the soul-extinguishing bell. The bell rang, and the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile was stunned for a moment before it was sucked into the gourd. Demon beasts had extremely sharp hearing, and the sound of the soul-extinguishing bell might have alerted the surrounding demon beasts. To be safe, it was better to run first. Chapter 396. Wang Daoyuan controlled the flying kite and fled towards the south. Fortunately, only the closest demonic beast had noticed him, and it was a tortoise demonic beast. It would take too much effort to take this thing down, so he decided to just ignore it. The tortoise-type demonic beast also knew its own speed, so it was impossible for it to catch up. He simply pretended not to see it and continued to bask in the sun. Riding his sword, he flew south for more than 1,000 miles. Seeing that there were no demonic beasts following him, he took a big detour and returned to Jade Pine Mountain. Wang Daoyuan sent a message to Palace Master Gu, asking if he was interested in the living profound armored golden-toothed crocodile. After becoming an elder of the Netherworld sect, with the elder token, one would be able to obtain the Netherworld sect's contribution points. One contribution point was equivalent to 1 spirit stone. The Netherworld sect's contribution points could not be exchanged with spirit stones, and private transactions were also not allowed. They could only be obtained by completing the sect's missions. Those who had the qualifications to issue missions were at least the stewards of the various palaces. Wang Daoyuan was also qualified to issue missions, but there were many restrictions. Apart from issuing missions, the contribution points could also be used to exchange for cultivation techniques, spells, elixirs, artifacts, and talisman arrays, as well as various spiritual items. Although the Wang clan's strategy was that a cunning rabbit had 3 burrows. However, the most important thing right now was the cave of the Netherworld sect. The 5 Elements Mystery Realm could only be a refuge. If they were to develop there for a long time, it would be insufficient. At present, the Wang family was doing pretty well in the Underworld sect. Naturally, they had to manage this cave well. Earning more contribution points would be of great use in the future. Apart from the beast core, the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile didn't need anything else. It would be best to exchange them for contribution points. Not long after the news was sent, Palace Master Gu replied, asking him to bring the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile over. He had great use for it. Wang Daoyuan drove the standard flying boat of the Netherworld sect's elder with real power to the mountain gate of the Netherworld sect. After reaching the mountain gate, he went straight to the weapon forging hall. Hall Master Gu was already waiting for him at the entrance of the weapon refining hall. When he saw him, he quickly asked, "Where is the item? Take it out and show it to me." Wang Daoyuan took out the demon-subduing gourd and said, "It's still alive in the gourd. It's not good to release it here, is it?" Hall Master Gu smiled and said, "Don't worry. In my hands, a rank 3 lower-grade demonic beast won't be able to cause any trouble." Wang Daoyuan opened the demon-subduing gourd and released the mystic armored golden-toothed crocodile. The profound armored golden-toothed crocodile had nowhere to vent its anger after being ambushed by Wang Daoyuan. As soon as they were released, they went around attacking cultivators. Hall Master Gu immediately formed a seal with both of his hands. As his hands flew, it only took a breath's time to condense the shadow of a talisman. In the middle of the talisman's shadow, there was a large seal character. The talisman shadow hit the crocodile's head, and the crocodile immediately fell asleep. Then, he took out a black jade bottle filled with yin qi. He extracted the soul of the giant crocodile and stored it inside the bottle. Looking at the spell, Wang Daoyuan asked, "This is a spell for sealing souls?" Hall Master Gu nodded his head and said, "This is called the Soul Sealing Talisman. It can be used to trap souls, and it can also be used to protect damaged souls. It's only used by refiners, and it doesn't have much use in actual combat. Oh right, your spiritual sense is powerful, surpassing ordinary mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivators. You can try to cultivate a few powerful spiritual sense offensive spells. This profound armored golden-toothed crocodile has no flaws, so I'll give you 700,000 contribution points. I don't need the beast core, so you can take it away. The pellet hall has supplementary ingredients for the foundation establishment pellet, so you can refine it there. Give me the elder token, and I'll transfer the contribution points to you." Wang Daoyuan handed the token over to Hall Master Gu, who took the token and entered the hall. At this moment, Several Violet Palace realm cultivators were leading 20 to 30 Foundation Establishment realm cultivators to deal with the profound armored golden-toothed crocodile. Clearly, they were very familiar with this task. 2 Foundation Establishment realm cultivators pried open the crocodile's mouth, while a Violet Palace realm cultivator stabbed a foot into the crocodile's mouth and took out the beast core. He handed the beast core over to Wang Daoyuan and said, "Manager Wang, keep this beast core well." Wang Daoyuan took the beast core and stored it in a jade box. Hall Master Gu walked out of the hall and handed the token over to Lin Yun. "I've already transferred the 700,000 contribution points to you. Check it out, and if you catch a third-grade demonic beast in the future, you must send it to me." Wang Daoyuan took the token and injected his spiritual sense into it. The token showed that there were 700,000 contribution points in it. He couldn't let others see it since the Netherworld sect was pretty good at keeping secrets. He repeatedly promised that he would send the demonic beasts he caught in the future. After bidding farewell to Hall Master Gu, Lin Yun went to the pellet hall to refine the Foundation Establishment pellet. It was more convenient to refine in the pellet hall. He just had to hand the 2 Foundation Establishment pellets to the manager of the pellet hall. When Wang Daoyuan arrived at the pellet hall, he rented an alchemy room. He didn't use the other spiritual herbs provided by the pellet hall, and only spent 50 contribution points. The second time he used the beast core to refine the Foundation Establishment pellets, he was more familiar with it and managed to refine 8 Foundation Establishment pellets. After handing the 2 Foundation Establishment pellets to the manager of the pellet hall, Lin Yun left with the 100,000 spiritual stones. Since he had 700,000 contribution points with him, he could not exchange them for something. Hall Master Gu's words made sense. He did need to exchange for a powerful spiritual sense offensive technique. The soul-splitting blade that came with the clone soul nurturing technique had the risk of injuring himself when dealing with enemies with powerful spiritual senses. Furthermore, the soul-splitting blade was modified from the Myriad Corpse Taoist secret technique. It wasn't perfect, so it wasn't stable against Violet Palace realm cultivators. Furthermore, the soul-splitting blade might not be able to break through the Violet Palace realm's defenses. Wang Daoyuan came to the cultivation hall. The Netherworld sect's cultivation techniques and spiritual techniques were all under the cultivation hall's management. When he arrived at the cultivation hall and stated his purpose, a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator immediately brought him to a 5-floored stone pavilion. There was a white-haired mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator at the entrance. When Wang Daoyuan flashed his elder token, the white-haired cultivator smiled. "So it's Manager Wang. With your identity, you can go to the 3rd floor to pick the cultivation techniques and spiritual techniques you need. But remember that you can make copies of the items on the 1st and 2nd floors. But the items on the 3rd floor can't be left in copies. Furthermore, the manager can only learn 2 items from the 3rd floor every year. There are surveillance arrays inside, so don't try to be smart." "Thank you for your reminder, Elder. I will abide by the sect's rules." Wang Daoyuan smiled. Then, he walked up to the 3rd floor. The interior of the pavilion was extremely spacious. The 3rd floor was roughly an acre in size. There were over 100 bookshelves on the 3rd floor, and there were over 30 boxes on each bookshelf. In each box, there was a jade strip or a beast skin book. In addition, there were introductions to the cultivation techniques in each box. Wang Daoyuan planned to find a spiritual sense offensive technique and a powerful offensive technique. After all, his methods were either too obvious or too secretive and could be easily recognized. It was better to learn more spells that could be used in battle. He chose the Soul Cutter as his spiritual sense offensive technique. It was a technique that specialized in dealing with Violet Palace realm cultivators. Condensing the Soul Cutter with spiritual sense could forcefully break through the Violet Palace realm and injure the opponent's soul. This technique was powerful, but it consumed a lot of spiritual sense. However, this thing also had an advantage, and that was that it wouldn't harm one's soul even if one encountered an opponent stronger than one's divine sense. Spiritual sense techniques didn't have the same attack range as flying swords and were more suitable for sneak attacks. The Soul Cutter was the same. After mastering it, its effective attack range was only around half a kilometer. It couldn't be compared to a flying sword that could be used within 5 kilometers. In addition to the Soul Cutter, Wang Daoyuan also chose a fire attribute technique. This technique was called Flame Wave Slash. It was used when he had just obtained the Yin Yang Purple Jade and was chased by Chen Ji. Chen Ji used the prairie fire sword to cast this technique. Flame Wave Slash could condense a giant wave of flames. Furthermore, the huge waves of flames unleashed by the Flame Wave Slash could be stacked multiple times. It could be stacked more than 30 times at most. This power was rather terrifying. Coupled with his divine sky-burning technique's ability to control fire, its lethality was extremely high. Chapter 397. The Soul-Severing Blade was worth 20,000 contribution points, while the Flame Wave Slash was worth 50 million contribution points. After handing over the contribution points to the white-haired cultivator, he left the inheritance hall. After bidding farewell to Palace Master Gu, he left the Netherworld sect and returned to his family. He didn't return to Jade Spring Peak, but went directly to Jade Pine Mountain to cultivate the 2 new techniques. The Soul-Severing Blade took 10 days to condense a 3-inch-long divine sense knife with a killing range of about 1 mile. The knife's speed wasn't slow. Among the techniques Wang Daoyuan grasped, it was second only to the Earth Divine Lightning and Feather Blade. It was effective against opponents who didn't have powerful escape techniques. It was slightly weaker than the Soul-Severing Blade, and it consumed more energy. It consumed about 10% of his divine sense, but there was no risk of hurting himself. Moreover, he wasn't afraid of being discovered when using it. It had only been 10,000 years since the 10,000 Corpse Taoist master ran amok. Someone might recognize the Soul-Severing Blade. The Flame Wave Slash was relatively easy to learn. It was just a very ordinary Grade 3 technique. A huge wave of flames had 3 times the killing power of a low-grade Grade 3 sharp metal divine sword talisman. The only special feature was that it could be stacked multiple times. Against cultivators who could fly, the hit rate was terrible. Against demonic beasts who couldn't fly, it was very reliable. Wang Daoyuan exchanged this technique to complement the divine heaven burning technique. He didn't care if it was weak when used alone. After cultivating, Wang Daoyuan didn't find any more demonic beasts to test its power. During this time, he had already dealt with 2 Grade 3 demonic beasts. If he killed too many, he might anger a high-grade Grade 3 demonic beast. It was also time to improve his alchemy skills. Without the purple rhythm pill, his cultivation speed was terrible. The spirit plants in the space of the spirit pearl also needed to be adjusted. Now that he was already a Zifu realm cultivator, there was no point in keeping those Grade 2 spirit herbs. The purple cloud grass used to make Grade 2 talismans was basically useless now. He still had a lot in stock. He might as well uproot all of the purple cloud grass and leave some seeds. The raw materials for the Grade 2 rejuvenation pill, essence condensing pill, and soul strengthening pill were also uprooted. The red-scaled pine was used to burn rank 2 spirit charcoal, which meant that only the pine nuts had some value. The growth rate of the blood dragon wood was slow, and there was a serious shortage of spiritual charcoal. For the time being, 1 mu of the red-scaled pine was set aside, and 4 mu of spiritual fields were cleared. A total of 13 mu of spiritual fields were cleared out. Among them, 5 mu were planted with blood dragon wood, 5 mu were planted with purple dragon ginseng, and 3 mu were planted with purple dragon pills. Blood dragon wood was the raw material for Tier 3 talisman paper and Tier 3 spirit charcoal. Naturally, they had to plant more of it. Needless to say, the purple rime pill had a slow growth rate and a high demand. No matter how many he planted, he could never have too many. Although the meridian shielding pill was not bad, the consumption was very small. It was enough to keep 1 mu of the original. His success rate in refining the meridian shielding pill was only 45%. If he started refining the purple rime pill now, it would consume too many materials. He spent more than a month refining a cauldron of meridian shielding pills every day. The materials were almost used up, and the success rate had increased to 50%. He could now try to refine the Tier 3 middle-grade purple rime pill. The purple cloud pill's main ingredient, the purple cloud dragon pattern ginseng, was relatively rare, and he did not have much of it. In order to conserve the purple dragon ginseng and increase the success rate, he used his life spirit fire to refine the pills. Although the consumption of spiritual power and spiritual sense was high, it increased the success rate by around 5%. The pill toxins were also much less. Now that the royal jelly and hidden cloud tea had little effect on removing the pill toxins, he did not dare to eat large quantities of spiritual herbs like before. If he could reduce the pill toxins, he would do his best to reduce them. He would refine a cauldron every 3 days. After failing, he would refine the next cauldron. After 2 months, the success rate of refining the purple rime pill had finally reached 30%. After another month, he had used up all the spiritual herbs and refined a total of 70 pills. These purple rime pills only had 1/3 of the pill toxins left in them. Even so, Wang Daoyuan did not dare to consume large quantities. He would consume 1 pill every month. After refining it, the cultivation effect would last for 3 months. For a Violet Palace Realm cultivator, 3 times the cultivation speed could save 40 years. The hidden cloud tea was already better than nothing, but he still insisted on drinking some every day. This thing had very high requirements for the environment. Apart from the life spirit fire, it was difficult to grow in other places. This hidden cloud tea was already a second-tier mid-grade plant and showed signs of advancing to a second-tier high-grade plant. However, even if it was a second-grade hidden cloud tea, it would not be of much use to him. He did not know how long he would have to wait for it to become a third-tier spiritual plant. If he had the chance in the future, he would go deep into the hidden cloud continent of the 100 Rivers Lake and see if there were any third-tier hidden cloud tea trees. After cultivating for a year, Xueqi sent news that she had investigated the whereabouts of the dragon seed. She asked him to bring 10 purple rime pills and 100 jars of spirit peach dew to meet at the old place. This old place was also the place where he and Xueqi fought twice. It was only 3,000 to 4,000 kilometers away from Jade Pine Mountain. There were very few cultivators on the way, so he did not even bother to disguise himself. Putting on the cloak that Xueqi gave him, he flew north on his sword and arrived at the northern foot of Huiyan Mountain, the outer boundary of the Sky/Mountain Range. He waited here for 12 to 14 hours, but no one came. Just as he was about to send a message to ask, a fiery red sword light slashed at him. Wang Daoyuan took out the white tiger blade and waved it to shatter the sword light. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense, but he did not find any traces of enemies. Suddenly, a black shadow pounced at him with a red sword in his hand. Wang Daoyuan recognized that the spiritual energy fluctuation was from Xueqi, so he did not counterattack and dodged the attack. The black shadow brushed past him, and a familiar fragrance came with a hint of alcohol. Xueqi chuckled and said, "This cloak that is thicker than a blanket is really useful. Even you were fooled." With that, she put away the cloak and looked at Wang Daoyuan carefully. "This is the first time I've seen your true appearance. You look pretty good. But where did your daunting aura come from? If I didn't see this cloak, I wouldn't have recognized you." Wang Daoyuan looked at her and replied, "Don't you know about the white tiger blade? I comprehended the white tiger sword intent, but I still can't freely withdraw and release it, so I became like this. You're still dressed like before, and your makeup hasn't changed. What have you been doing for the past 12 to 14 hours? I only need several dozen breaths of time to change my appearance." Xueqi glanced at him with her phoenix eyes. "It's none of your business. Did you bring the things I wanted? It took me several years to gather all the information that Blood Shadow knew about the dragon species. Giving you 10 purple rhythm pills and 100 jars of wine is already cheap for you." Wang Daoyuan took out a spirit beast pouch and a storage pouch, handing them to Xueqi. "Here are 200 jars of spirit peach dew and 20 purple rhythm pills. The sooner you form your gold core, the sooner I can continue to live off you." Xueqi's cheeks were somewhat red, but she still said with a straight face, "You're glib-tongued." She handed over a 3-inch thick beast skin book to Wang Daoyuan. In the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian, the records of dragon species that appeared in the past 10,000 years are all here. However, if you want to know about dragon species, is there a need to ask me? Your clan's Jade Spring Peak is one of the places where dragon species appear most often. If you keep an eye on Jade Dragon Spring, the chances of finding dragon species are not low. He naturally knew about dragon species appearing in Jade Spring Peak. In the past 10,000 years, dragon species have appeared more than 10 times. Wang Daoyuan flipped through all of his clan's records, but he still couldn't find the reason. In the image he saw when he opened his purple mansion, before the formation of Decimating Heaven Abyss, Jade Spring Peak didn't have any relationship with the dragon race. In his previous life, he also learned some feng shui geomancy from his master. In the few thread-bound old books his master left behind, other than a not-so-brilliant cultivation method, most of them were books on feng shui geomancy and the like. From a feng shui perspective, Jade Spring Peak was located near the intersection of the two great dragon veins of Heaven/Mountain Range and Huiyan Mountain Range. He wasn't skilled enough, so he could only roughly see. He also didn't understand the situation of Jade Spring Peak. Chapter 398. In Feng Shui, the dragon vein was also considered a dragon. In time, it had the chance to transform into a true dragon. There was even a rumor that the earliest dragon clan was born from the dragon vein. Where the dragon vein was, there must be true dragon qi. Humans usually couldn't feel it, but dragons could. True dragon qi could improve the purity of dragon blood, which was a fatal attraction to dragons. However, there was no such saying in Beiyuan Xiuxian. He wasn't sure if the fortune-tellers in the archaic mysteries sect had such a saying. He could ask Zhou Xian, that little fortune-teller, when he met him in the future. Yuchuan Peak might have obtained the true dragon qi from the two dragon veins or attracted the dragon species here. Or maybe the indigenous aquatic beasts obtained the true dragon qi and awakened the dragon bloodline in their body. In the past 10,000 years, many dragon species appeared. There was the old ancestors' dragonfish, and then there was the Qingjiang carp. Even the Jade Spring Peak specialty jade dragon algae grew into a small white jade dragon when it reached the 3rd level. This thing couldn't survive without the jade dragon spring. Even if the life spirit fire contained vitality and had the effect of reviving spiritual plants, it could only barely keep the 1st level jade dragon algae alive. The 2nd and 3rd level jade dragon algae he transplanted earlier were all dead. The 1st level jade dragon algae that survived were half dead. There was no hope for them to advance. Moreover, this thing could actually break the bloodline shackles of aquatic beasts. It probably contained some true dragon qi. It needed to be in an environment with true dragon qi to grow and advance normally. The jade dragon algae couldn't grow well in the space of the spiritual pearl, probably because the space lacked true dragon qi. Wang Daoyuan put away the beast skin book. Zhou Wan took out 2 jars of wine and said, "I haven't seen you for a few years, and I don't even have a drinking partner. Today, you have to drink with me." He waited here for 12 to 14 hours, and the sky was already dark. However, the vision of a qi refinement cultivator was not affected by the night, let alone a Zifu realm cultivator. Wang Daoyuan looked around and asked, "This is the wilderness. You're a weak woman, and you still dare to drink?" Zhou Wan smiled sweetly. "You are the most dangerous person here. As long as you don't have any evil intentions, what danger can I be in?" Wang Daoyuan channeled his spirit energy to calm his unstable qi and blood before saying, "I'm an upright gentleman who only cares about cultivation. Why would I have any ill intentions towards you?" Then, he used the Earth Mountain technique to condense a stone table and 2 stone stools. He placed the wine jar on the table. He then took out some red-scaled pine nuts and dried meat, saying, "There's no point in just drinking wine. I have some dishes that go with the wine." The 2 of them drank for the whole night, and each of them drank 5 or 6 jars of wine. Fortunately, the spirit peach dew was not very strong. If it was the scarlet blood brew, the 2 of them would have been knocked out. Along the way, some demonic beasts came to join in the fun. When Wang Daoyuan activated the white tiger blade and released a bit of his aura, they were all scared away. In the blink of an eye, the sky was bright. The 2 of them had eaten and drank to their heart's content. It was time for them to return home. Wang Daoyuan smiled. "I still need to live off a woman again. Help me gather information about ancient cultivators who are famous for playing with fire. It would be best if you know the location of an immortal's cave or tomb. It would be good if you know the general area." Zhou Wan asked doubtfully, "You want spiritual fire? It's not hard to find. There are many of them on the surface. If you have the ability, you can just go and snatch them." "If I had the ability, would I still need to live off a woman?" Wang Daoyuan asked in a righteous manner. Zhou Wan covered her mouth and laughed for a long time. Her whole body was trembling violently. Wang Daoyuan immediately took out the profound ice jade essence and extracted the cold energy from it. He suppressed his somewhat violent qi and blood so that he wouldn't be unable to control himself. After she stopped laughing, she said, "I've never seen someone who lives off a woman so righteously. Okay, I'll gather information for you. But the reward can't be low." Wang Daoyuan patted his chest and promised, "Don't worry, 20 purple rhythm pills is nothing." Later, Wang Daoyuan returned to Jade Pine Mountain, and Zhou Wan returned to Yanfang City. Before leaving, she took away Wang Daoyuan's 2 storage bags. One was filled with red scale pine nuts and the other was filled with dried meat. After Wang Daoyuan returned to the Jade Pine Mountain Immortal's Cave, he put the animal skin book that Zhou Wan gave him into the space. He let his clone Li Qingchuan take a good look at which places had dragon species. Although there was a Qing River carp at home, it was still raised by his family. If it awakened the dragon bloodline, it could become the clan's divine beast. With the long lifespan of dragon species, even if it could only cultivate to the 4th rank, it could still protect the family for thousands of years. Killing it to refine tools was too much of a loss. Besides, that Qing River carp was only a 2nd-rank low-grade dragon. It would take many years for it to condense a pseudo-dragon ball. Zhou Wan was very attentive in collecting information about dragon species. She didn't simply record the information, but also recorded the number of times dragon species appeared in detail. In addition to the conclusive evidence of dragon species, she also recorded some rumors. She recorded in detail the places where dragon species were most likely to appear. Now there were 3 places where dragon species were confirmed to live. One was the extreme cold ice field at the northernmost tip of Beiyuan Xiuxian. There were many ice-attribute dragon species there, but there were also some 4th-rank dragon species there. With the protection of the 4th-rank dragon species, daring to touch the dragon species there was no different from courting death. The second was the Thousand Dragon Mountain near the Sky/Mountain Range in the southeast corner of Zhao. There were several 4th-rank flood dragons there, and one of them was even at the peak of the 4th rank. If one dared to go there, they would definitely die. The third was the Mirage Dragon Sea, which was east of the Sky/Mountain Range and tens of thousands of miles north of Linhai State. It was shrouded in fog all year round, and there were mirage dragons lurking in the fog. It was said that in the past 10,000 years, many people had explored the Fog Sea, but no one had ever come out. Even golden core cultivators would find it difficult to survive in these 3 places. Wang Daoyuan wouldn't risk his life for a natal magic artifact. Apart from these 3 places, the place where dragon species appeared the most frequently was the Qianlong River in Zhou. The Qianlong River was also a tributary of the Wanchuan River. At the mouth of the Wanchuan River, dragon species would appear every 50 to 60 years. No one cared about the dragon species there, and whoever had the ability could kill them. This was also the most reliable place to obtain pseudo-dragon balls. However, with his current strength, it was still very difficult to obtain dragon species. If he wanted to obtain more resources, increasing his strength was the most important thing. He took the purple rhythm pill and continued to increase his cultivation. In addition to cultivation, he also had to nurture the white tiger blade. After all, most of the strength of a Zifu realm cultivator relied on their natal magic artifact. When he was drinking with Zhou Wan, he also asked the trick of communicating with his natal magic artifact. The answer he received was to spend more time nurturing it. It was best to place his natal magic artifact in his Zifu realm and directly contact his soul. This would only be slightly faster. Zhou Wan had spent more than 30 years nurturing her natal Dharma artifact before she was able to communicate with it. Wang Daoyuan felt that he should be able to speed up a lot. After all, Zhou Wan's Zifu realm phenomenon was a Scarlet Luan, and her Dharma artifact was a phoenix. Although they both belonged to the phoenix race, there were still some differences. It should have a great impact on the nurturing speed. In addition, he was a dabbler in sword cultivation and had comprehended the white tiger sword intent, which would be of great help to nurture his Dharma artifact. It was impossible for him to improve his cultivation in a short period of time. He mainly relied on the white tiger blade to increase his combat strength. He kept it in his Zifu realm and placed it beside his soul. Apart from meditating and cultivating every day, he nurtured the white tiger blade. However, his efforts were not in vain. When controlling the white tiger blade, the power of his spiritual sense was also decreasing. The intimacy he felt with the white tiger blade also grew stronger. After 7 years, Wang Daoyuan could finally control the white tiger blade without using his spiritual sense. At this moment, the white tiger blade was like a part of his body. Without using his spiritual sense, he could sense every detail of the white tiger blade. It felt a little like the panoramic perception clone. With a thought, the white tiger blade would act according to his intentions. This was the connection between the heart and the sword. Chapter 399. The biggest difference between controlling the White Tiger Blade and controlling an avatar was that the White Tiger Blade consumed the spirit power of the main body. However, the power of the natal magic weapon was also based on one's own strength. Unlike controlling an avatar, no matter how strong one's combat experience and skills were, they would be restricted by the avatar and could not be used at all. After leaving the cave abode and going outside the formation, he tried to use only spirit power and not divine sense to control the White Tiger Blade and cast sword cultivation spells. He tried the myriad sword art, the black tortoise sword shield, and the demon-resisting sword bell, and he could successfully cast them all. When he tried to cast the heaven-cleaving sword and the endless sword sea, he could not cast them. Without consuming divine sense, he could cast some spells that consumed less spirit power. For the time being, he could not cast spells that consumed a lot of spirit power. This was also because he had just achieved a mental connection with a magic weapon. In the future, when the magic weapon was stronger, he might be able to cast the heaven-cleaving sword. From this, one could see the strength of sword cultivators. Even if other cultivators could communicate with their natal flying sword, they could only control the flying sword to release sword light, control the flying sword Dharma image, and use the flying sword itself to attack and defend. On the other hand, sword cultivators could cast some sword cultivator spells without consuming their divine sense, so they were superior in terms of life-bound magic artifacts. Even if one did not consider the power of the sword intent, sword cultivators had a big advantage over ordinary cultivators. In addition, the flying sword nurtured by the sword intent was even more lethal. Sword cultivators put all their energy on the natal flying sword, focusing on the sword and walking the path to the end. Compared to other cultivators, their methods were more simple. For most non-sword cultivators, their natal magic weapons would have some special abilities, such as the vermilion bird fan to control fire and the Kirin seal to suppress. In a real fight, sword cultivators might not necessarily win. With a mental connection with the White Tiger Blade, the sword could follow the heart, and he could only consume spirit power to fight with the enemy. With the spiritual wine in the space of the spiritual pearl, he did not have to worry about the consumption of spirit power. In the future, when he fought with others, he could fight to his heart's content. With his control of the White Tiger Blade improved, Wang Daoyuan planned to go out and kill 1 or 2 rank 3 demonic beasts. At this moment, the third brother Wang Daocheng sent a message saying that Yi Chongxing of the Divine Weapon Pavilion had come to visit, saying that he had something important to discuss with him. Wang Daoyuan immediately rode his sword back to Jade Spring Peak. The third brother accompanied Yi Chongxing to talk in the auditorium. The last time he saw Yi Chongxing was at his 5th granduncle's Purple Mansion grand ceremony. At that time, he had just entered the threshold of the late Foundation establishment stage. Now, he was already at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage. Seeing Wang Daoyuan enter, Yi Chongxing stood up and bowed. Greetings to Martial Uncle. Under the orders of Martial Ancestor Lei Yan, I am here to invite Martial Uncle to the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Wang Daoyuan was startled. Why was he suddenly invited to the Divine Weapon Pavilion? He asked. Could it be that Dao Yin has opened up his Violet Palace? Yi Chongxing answered. It was indeed Junior Martial Uncle who established his Violet Palace. His Violet Palace anomaly was the Purple Thunder Divine Flame, which was exactly the same as Grandmaster's Violet Palace anomaly. The embryonic form of youngest Martial Uncle's Purple Palace was 7 inches and 8 parts. Although it wasn't unparalleled in the world, it was still very rare. Grandmaster Lei Yan was overjoyed and decided to invite everyone to hold a grand ceremony for youngest Martial Uncle. As youngest Martial Uncle's only close relative, Grandmaster has instructed me to invite you over. Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed. He knew that Yi Chongxing's special physique had great potential, but he didn't expect his Violet Palace anomaly to be so powerful. There were all kinds of Violet Palace anomalies. Wind, fire and lightning anomalies were extremely rare, but they were all extremely powerful. Most of them were comparable to Divine Beast anomalies. The strength of the Purple Thunder Divine Flame could be seen from Taoist Lei Yan. Taoist Lei Yan's name came from his Violet Palace anomaly. His lesser ability was also the Purple Thunder Divine Flame. When he executed his divine ability, it had the explosive power of lightning and the scorching effect of flames. Although Taoist Lei Yan wasn't a half-step Yuanian cultivator, his strength wasn't much weaker than a half-step Yuanian cultivator with his lesser ability. It was especially effective against heretic cultivators. With Yi Chongxing's Violet Palace and the Purple Thunder Divine Flame anomaly, It's only a matter of time before he forms his golden core. He smiled and said, Daoyin is my blood brother, so I naturally have to attend his Violet Palace Grand Ceremony. When will I leave for the Divine Weapon Pavilion? Yi Chongxing replied, Martial Uncle. Youngest Martial Uncle's Violet Palace Grand Ceremony is 2 months later. 1 month later. Please come to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's shop in Clear Glass City. There will be a flying boat heading to the sect. Martial Uncle, you can take the flying boat. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, I'll be there on time. Yi Chongxing bowed and said, Grandmaster Lei Yan also said that he hasn't seen Martial Uncle Zhao for many years. He heard that Martial Uncle Zhao has a child, so he hopes that Martial Uncle Zhao can bring your family along. I've already passed on Grandmaster's words to Martial Uncle, so I'll take my leave. Zhao Liang and 8th sister did give birth to a boy, but he wasn't even 10 years old. It was unknown if he had a spiritual root, so he hadn't been officially named. Yi Chongxing left the hall and Wang Daochang sent him out of the mountain. Wang Daoyuan sighed with emotion. The little kid who couldn't eat his fill had already caught up with him in the blink of an eye. He went to the family graveyard at the back of the mountain and lit a few incense sticks for his parents. Their youngest son, who they were worried about the most, had also become successful. In the following month, Wang Daoyuan didn't plan to go to Fallen Dragon Ridge and cultivate it at Jade Spring Peak. 3 days later, Sect Master Gu came to Jade Spring Peak to see Wang Daoyuan. Sect Master Gu wasn't even 350 years old and had been at the peak of the Violet Palace realm for many years. He was the person with the highest chance of forming his golden core in the Netherworld sect. He was a native cultivator and was said to be the direct descendant of a Grand Elder. In terms of status, he was a sect master, second only to the Grand Elder, the sect master, and the vice sect master. When such a heavyweight came to Jade Spring Peak, the 3 Violet Palace realm cultivators of the Wang clan naturally had to come out to welcome him. After Sect Master Gu was welcomed into the hall and everyone was seated, Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, Sect Master Gu, if you have something to ask of me, you can just send a message. There's no need for you to come here personally. Sect Master Gu smiled and said, There's no need to be so polite. I'm here for Wang Daoyin. We already know about him establishing his Violet Palace realm. The Divine Weapon Pavilion also sent an invitation, and I'm sure Daoyuan has also received it. The sect master guessed that when you go to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Taoist Lei Yan might ask to take you in as a disciple. The Grand Elders and the sect master all believe that if you become Taoist Lei Yan's disciple, it'll be more beneficial for the Netherworld sect and the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Therefore, I hope you won't refuse when the time comes. You can take Taoist Lei Yan as your master, but you can't join the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Wang Daoyuan bowed and said, I understand. If Taoist Lei Yan wants to take me in as a disciple, I'll definitely say that I'm willing to take him as my master, but I won't join the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Sect Master Gu nodded with satisfaction. It's good that you know what you're doing. However, you have to be mentally prepared. This time, Taoist Lei Yan has invited so many people. When the time comes, I'm afraid all the influential forces will send people to attend. Taoist Lei Yan has a violent temper and has offended many people. Although there's no life and death feud, there are many people who want to embarrass him. When the time comes, someone might find trouble with Daoyin. Wang Daoyuan's face turned serious. Who will make a move? Please advise me, Sect Master Gu. Sect Master Gu stroked his beard and smiled. The Sect Master didn't guess wrong. He said you're loyal and righteous. If someone wants to deal with Daoyin, you'll definitely make a move. There are mainly 2 people who don't get along with Taoist Lei Yan. One is Taiyi Sword Sect's Taoist Profound Thunder, and the other is Wind Snow Deity Palace's Taoist Ning Shuang. At Daoyin's Violet Palace ceremony, their disciples will definitely make a move. Although Taoist Heaven Glimpse of the Archaic Arcanum sect doesn't have any grudges with Taoist Lei Yan, he has an extremely good relationship with Taoist Profound Thunder. Perhaps, his disciples will make a move. The disciples or juniors of the 3 of them are all top-notch geniuses. Although you're a Pentaspirit Veins cultivator and are known to be invincible in the same stage, in front of them, you might not be able to gain an advantage. Chapter 400. The Taiyi Sword Sect was located in the southwest corner of Beiyuan Xiuxian. It was also the strongest sword sect. Sword talismans were one of the three major sects of spirit talismans. It was also one of the specialty of the Tai sword sect. The Wind Snow God Palace was located in the northwest corner of Beiyuan Xueqi. It was near the border of the Arctic ice plains. It was an extremely unconventional sect that only recruited female disciples. Because it was near the Arctic ice plains, most of the sect's disciples were ice cultivators. Apart from that, the Arctic ice plains was the only music sect in Beiyuan Xueqi. Their music cultivators were not as simple as the soul-extinguishing bell. The soul-extinguishing bell attacked indiscriminately. Apart from the user's own golden light barrier, everything around them was the target of the attack. The attack method was also extremely simple. It relied on sound waves to forcefully injure the opponent's soul. The orthodox music cultivator's legacy focused most of the power together to attack a specific target. Although the surrounding people would be affected, the effect would be very small. The attack method was not just brute force. There were also illusions and the like. Wang Daoyuan was unconcerned. Although these top geniuses are powerful, they should be quite arrogant. They won't bully the weak. The ones looking for trouble are only early-stage Zifu realm cultivators. In a battle of the same level, I'm not afraid of them. It wasn't that he was underestimating his opponents. Ordinary early-stage Zifu realm cultivators rarely refined their natal magic artifacts to the point where they could communicate with their minds. After all, they cared more about cultivation. The disciples of the Wind Snow God Palace and the Archaic Mysteries sect did not need to be too concerned. They also had all kinds of fancy spells and secret techniques, and it just so happened that Wang Daoyuan was the same. The Tai sword sect's spiritual master Xuanlei's disciple should also be a sword cultivator. The sword cultivator's natal magic artifact could only be stronger than his, not weaker. However, sword cultivators did not have many things other than their natal flying swords. As long as he did not have the ability to kill in one blow, it would not be difficult to defeat sword cultivators with his various methods. Sect Master Gu smiled. It's good that you are confident. However, there is no need to be too worried. After all, it's just a spar. If someone was injured during such a joyous occasion, it would be a feud between the two major powers. The few spiritual masters knew their limits and knew the severity of the situation. I am the special envoy of the Netherworld sect. When the time comes, I will take the flying boat with you to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's mountain gate. I'll be staying at Qingli City Square for the time being. If you need anything, you can come and find me directly. After saying that, Headmaster Gu left the hole. Wang Daoyuan and the others sent him out of the mountain. Wang Daoyuan returned to his cave and continued to nurture the white tiger blade. With less than a month left, there was not much point in increasing his cultivation. The time to set off arrived very quickly. Wang Daoyuan brought Zhao Liang, eighth sister and their children to the entrance of the Divine Weapon Pavilion shop in Qingli City. Yi Chongxing was already waiting at the door. When he saw Wang Daoyuan coming over, he bowed and said, "Greetings, Uncle Masters. The flying boat is ready and can set off at any time. Please follow me inside." Wang Daoyuan and the others followed behind Yi Chongxing and entered the backyard of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. In a spacious courtyard, there was a flying boat that was more than 200 feet long. It looked like a cargo ship, but there were no goods on it. Yi Chongxing smiled and said, "There are only such flying boats for transporting goods here. Please forgive me, Uncle Masters." Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "It's fine. If it wasn't for the various factions forbidding outsiders from entering, I can go to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's mountain gate myself. It's already good enough to have this flying boat." The territories of various factions would interrogate the foreign Zifu realm cultivators. If he went as an individual and was discovered by other factions, it would be inevitable that there would be conflicts. As the top faction of Beiyuan Xueqi, as long as their flying boat did not fly over other factions' important industries or mountain gates, the other factions would not dare to say anything. Wang Daoyuan and the others boarded the flying boat and found that Headmaster Gu was already on the boat. The two of them exchanged a few words and the flying boat set off. The flying boat flew to an altitude of more than 90,000 feet and headed southwest. In Beiyuan Xueqi, the Nine Heavens astral wind existed at an altitude of more than 10,000 feet. In the Nine Heavens astral wind, even golden core cultivators would find it hard to protect themselves. Those below the golden core level would definitely die if they touched it. Humans and demonic beasts would avoid it. At 90,000 feet and above, There were basically no traces of flying demonic beasts. The flying boat could avoid a lot of trouble at this altitude. Because they were on a flying boat for transporting goods, the speed was average, about 4,000 miles in 2 hours. It was slightly faster than an early Zifu realm cultivator's flying sword. Wang Daoyuan spent most of his time traveling in the Sky Beheading Mountain Range and Huiyan Mountain Range. The only time he crossed the Thousand River was when he went to support Wuqing Pass. He came to the bow of the flying boat and looked down at the land. Looking to the west, there was a large river coming from the west, but its source could not be seen. To the east was the Sky Beheading Mountain Range, which reached into the clouds. The mountain peak was deep in the 9 heavens astral wind. At an altitude of more than 90,000 feet, it was still impossible to see the situation on the other side of the mountain. On the land, mountain ranges of various sizes rose and fell. The plains were only in the gaps between the mountain ranges and in the river valleys. It was extremely rare to see a place like Guangyuan Prefecture, where the entire prefecture was dominated by plains. They had to pass by Zhao, Song, Chu, as well as some half-demon territories to the south of Chu. There was no cargo on the flying boat, so it could fly continuously. However, along the way, they had to go around many mountains, demonic beasts, and important industries. After more than 20 days, they finally arrived at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The place where the Divine Weapon Pavilion was located was called the Treasure Cauldron Mountain. The mountain was shaped like a round crafting cauldron. It did not matter if one did not use a weapon cauldron to craft magic weapons below grade 4. Wang Daoyuan had never used a weapon cauldron before. However, magic weapons of the 4th level and above still needed a long time to be nurtured after they were refined. Hence, a weapon refining cauldron was required. Legend had it that the Treasure Cauldron Mountain was a weapon cauldron left behind by an immortal. After a long time, it turned into a cauldron-shaped mountain. Not many people believed in this legend, but the Treasure Cauldron Mountain did have an auxiliary effect on weapon crafting. The founder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion had carved many auxiliary formation patterns on the Treasure Cauldron Mountain. It was said that the success rate of crafting here would increase by around 5%. For high-grade magic weapons, the success rate would increase by 5%, and the materials saved would be a huge fortune. The flying boat landed in front of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Wang Daoyuan and the others followed Hallmaster Gu out of the boat. In front of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, 3 Zifu disciples came forward to welcome them. The one in the middle was Wang Daoyin. Wang Daoyin's appearance had not changed much, but his body had grown larger. He was over 9 feet tall, and there was a trace of thunder spiritual energy on his body. It seemed that he had just broken through and had not reached the stage where he could control it freely. After greeting each other, Wang Daoyin pulled Wang Daoyuan and Zhao Liang into the sect. Hallmaster Gu was received by the other 2 Zifu disciples. Wang Daoyin laughed. "Second brother, last time when you opened your Zifu, I was in seclusion. I'm currently in seclusion, so I wasn't able to participate in your Purple Mansion Grand Ceremony. Don't be angry with me." Wang Daoyuan wanted to pat his little brother on the shoulder, but it was rather strenuous. He laughed awkwardly. "Why are we brothers talking about such things?" Wang Daoyin continued, "Master has always wanted to take you as a disciple, but he didn't have any techniques or spells to pass on to you. Now, he's planning to take you as an honorary disciple. I'll take you to see him." The 4 followed Wang Daoyin into the sect. They walked all the way up, quickly arriving at the peak. Upon arriving at the peak, they discovered that below them was a basin with a diameter of over 300 kilometers. Wang Daoyin pointed at a fiery red tree in the middle of the basin. "Second brother, look. That's where Master's cave is. I usually train under that tree." Chapter 401. Finished speaking. He took out a small flying boat that was 50 to 60 feet long, and invited Wang Daoyuan and the rest aboard. Then, he steered the flying boat and flew towards the fiery red tree. The top of the mountain was more than 20,000 feet higher than the basin, and there was a flying forbidden array here, so flying on artifacts could not be done. But the flying boat that Wang Daoyin took out was not affected at all. Wang Daoyuan carefully observed the flying boat and asked, "Brother, I think this flying boat can't fly on its own. It seems that the tool patterns on the flying boat cooperate with the formation patterns of this Treasure Cauldron Mountain to be able to fly." Wang Daoyin smiled and said, No wonder Master always said that my comprehension is inferior to yours. There are really not many people who can see through the secret of this flying boat at a glance. For the safety of the mountain gate, the treasure cauldron mountain is set up with a flying forbidden array. Flying on artifacts is simply impossible. Cultivators below Golden Core can only rely on this kind of flying boat to fly. The spiritual chi concentration on the top of the mountain was also at the level of a high-grade rank 2 spirit vein. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat in disbelief. The location of a dignified first-rate major force had to be at least a high-grade rank 4 spirit vein. The flying boat gradually descended, and the spiritual chi concentration in the surroundings also became higher and higher. When it was more than 1,000 feet above the ground, the spiritual chi concentration already reached the level of a high-grade rank 4 spirit vein. Wang Daoyuan praised, "What a powerful spirit binding array. It binds all the spiritual chi to the ground, and very little leaks out." Wang Daoyin smiled and said, "This is the array left behind by the ancestors of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Originally, the Treasure Cauldron Mountain's spirit vein grade was extremely high. It was said that it was once a rank 7 spirit vein. Ever since the formation of the Absolute Heaven Abyss, the spiritual chi concentration in the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian, as well as the spirit vein grade, has been constantly declining. The Treasure Cauldron Mountain was also not spared. Now, it is only at the high-grade rank 4 spirit vein. The effect that the array can play is also getting weaker and weaker. It is said that 50,000 years ago, the power of this array was extremely strong, and very little spiritual chi could leak out. In the periphery of the Treasure Cauldron Mountain, the spiritual chi is not even at the level of a low-grade rank 1 spirit vein. The flying boat's speed was not slow, and soon arrived under the fiery red tree. Everyone left the flying boat. The spiritual chi concentration here already surpassed the level of a high-grade rank 4 spirit vein. Of course, it was still not at the level of a low-grade rank 5 spirit vein. From the 4th rank to the 5th rank, there would be a qualitative change in the spiritual energy. It wasn't something that could be achieved simply by increasing the concentration of spiritual energy. Otherwise, if a cultivator were to compress their spiritual energy using some advanced formations, they would be able to support their breakthrough to the Yuanying realm. However, simply increasing the concentration of spirit energy would not achieve a qualitative change, and it would never become a level 5 spirit energy. This was also the reason why there hadn't been any Yuanying cultivators in Beiyuan Xiuxian for 10,000 years. Wang Daoyuan raised his head and looked at the tree. It was more than 1,000 feet tall, and the thickest part of the tree trunk would require more than 10 people to wrap their arms around it. The shape of the leaves was very similar to mulberry leaves. From the branches to the leaves, they were all fiery red. This tree was a mid-grade 4th stage spiritual wood, and its powerful fire spiritual energy was contained within. Otherwise, Wang Daoyuan and the others wouldn't have dared to stay near this tree. Below the tree was a short mountain condensed using earth attribute magic. The short mountain was over 300 feet tall and there was a large door on the south side. This was Taoist Lei Yan's immortal cave. Taoist Lei Yan should be refining right now, so they didn't dare to disturb him. They waited in front of the door for a while. The door opened and Taoist Lei Yan walked out. Everyone bowed. "Greetings, Master, Taoist Lei Yan." Taoist Lei Yan waved his hand. "No need to be so polite." Then, he looked at the little fellow in Zhao Liang's arms and smiled. "This is my little grand disciple, right? Come here and let your grandmaster hug you." Zhao Liang handed the child in his arms to Taoist Lei Yan. The little fellow wasn't even 5 years old, but he wasn't afraid of strangers. He even dared to pull Taoist Lei Yan's beard in his arms. Not only was Taoist Lei Yan not angry, he even laughed heartily. Perhaps, this was what they called distant affection. After playing with the little fellow for a while, Taoist Lei Yan asked, "What's your little grand disciple's name?" Zhao Liang replied, "He hasn't been given a name yet." Taoist Lei Yan smiled, "Since you've married into the Wang clan, this child will also follow the Wang clan's surname. As his grandmaster, I'll give him a name, Wang Ming Ting." The little fellow cleverly replied, "Okay." Taoist Lei Yan laughed heartily again. "Don't just stand outside. Come in and sit." After entering the cave, they felt a strong wave of lightning attribute spiritual energy. There were a few stone benches in the cave, and everyone sat down. Taoist Lei Yan asked, "Dao Yuan, you should already know that I intend to take you as my disciple." I'm already over 880 years old, and I've taken in a few in-name disciples, but none of them have formed a golden core. With Dao Yin's potential, forming a golden core won't be a problem. However, my cultivation technique is dual cultivation, and my cultivation speed in the Violet Palace realm is average. Before I pass away, Dao Yin won't be able to form a golden core. Although I haven't done anything outrageous in my life, and I haven't made any mortal enemies, I have a bad temper. I've offended a lot of people, and there's no lack of narrow-minded people among them. After I pass away, there won't be anyone among my disciples who can shoulder the burden, and they'll inevitably be bullied. It might even affect Dao Yin's golden core formation. Thus, I want to take in a disciple who can form a golden core before I pass away. After I pass away, there'll be a golden core cultivator to shoulder the burden, and my enemies will have some misgivings. Although Penta spirit veins have a slow cultivation speed, you're an exception. You'll be able to open the Violet Palace at around 120 years old. The further you go with Penta spirit veins, the greater the advantage. Your cultivation technique is extremely profound, and you'll have a high chance of forming a golden core in 110 years. I want to take you in as an in-name disciple. Are you willing? Wang Daoyuan immediately stood up and bowed. It's my honor to listen to seniors' teachings. However, I've already become a Violet Palace elder of the Netherworld sect, and I'm also the manager of the Tool Refining Hall. If I join the Divine Weapon Pavilion, it'll be equivalent to betraying the sect. I'm not afraid of revenge, but I'm worried that the Netherworld sect will make a move on the Wang family. Previously, sect leader Luo also sent someone to warn me that I can't join the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Taoist Lei Yan smiled. That's not a problem. It doesn't matter whether you join the Divine Weapon Pavilion or not. After Zhao Liang leaves the Divine Weapon Pavilion, won't he still be my disciple? After I pass away, you don't have to care about those in-name disciples of mine. Their potential is limited, and they won't be able to form a golden core. My enemies won't deal with them either. What I'm most worried about is Dao Yin. He's my personal disciple, and can inherit everything I have. After forming a golden core, he can even inherit my position. Some of my enemies have been drooling over this position for a long time. If I don't take you in as a disciple, there won't be any golden core cultivators among my disciples. They'll dare to make things difficult for Dao Yin, marginalize him, and even secretly harm him. Dao Yin won't be able to control some of the connections I've left behind. In addition, I've left some treasures for Dao Yin to assist in forming a golden core, but they might be taken away by force. In the future, it'll be very difficult for Dao Yin to form a golden core. Only with the status of my in-name disciple and forming a golden core, can you have the right to speak. In addition, your strength far surpasses those of the same stage, so my enemies won't dare to play any tricks. The connections I've left behind will also continue to support Dao Yin. After Dao Yin forms a golden core, he'll be able to inherit my position. Having said that, Wang Daoyuan didn't refuse anymore. He bowed and said, since it's for Dao Yin, then as his elder brother, I naturally can't stay out of it. Disciple Wang Daoyuan greets master. Taoist Lei Yan laughed. Good, good, good. I've taken in another genius. Dao Yin has inherited all my techniques and spells. On the path of refining, although Dao Yin's talent is not bad, he's still slightly inferior to you. There's no problem for him to inherit my path of refining, but it'll be a little difficult for him to take a step further. With your talent, you'll definitely surpass me on the path of refining. The matter of me taking you in as an in-name disciple will be announced at Dao Yin's Purple Mansion ceremony. Wang Daoyuan replied, I'll follow master's orders. Chapter 402. For the next few days, Wang Daoyuan stayed with Taoist Lei Yan to practice the art of refining weapons. The day of the Purple Mansion ceremony arrived quickly. Although Wang Daoyuan was Wang Daoyin's brother, he was also Taoist Lei Yan's disciple. But this time, he was representing his family to attend the Purple Mansion ceremony. Gifts were unavoidable. Wang Daoyuan had a headache over what gifts to give. Giving a grade 3 magic weapon was the easiest. If it was for other powers, giving a grade 3 magic weapon would be fine. Giving a magic weapon to the Divine Weapon Pavilion was somewhat provocative. Apart from magic weapons, he really didn't have many things that he could take out. There were some good things in the space, but they couldn't see the light of day. In the end, he decided to give 20 purple rhyme pills, 50 meridian shielding pills, and 10 golden lightning demon extermination talismans. Purple rhyme pills were needed by all Zifu realm cultivators. Wang Daoyuan only had 20 pills left, and now he took them all out. Ordinary people didn't need meridian shielding pills, but body refinement cultivators still needed to take them frequently. As for the golden lightning demon extermination talismans, Wang Daoyin was influenced by him and liked to use them in fights. These things were worth hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. Ordinary golden core powers wouldn't be willing to give them as gifts. Anyway, they were for his own brother. He didn't want the goodies to flow into other people's fields. The raw materials were all things that grew in the space of the spirit pearl, so there was nothing to be regretful about. The Purple Mansion ceremony was held in the middle of the Treasure Cauldron Mountain Basin. This was also where some important institutions of the Divine Weapon Pavilion were located. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was the #1 power in refining weapons. All the powers in Beiyuan Xueqi had business dealings with them. The Divine Weapon Pavilion held the Purple Mansion ceremony. Most of the powers with golden core cultivators in Beiyuan Xueqi came. Those without golden core cultivators didn't have the qualifications to come. The rule of Beiyuan Xueqi was that the bigger the power, the later they would appear. Wang Daoyuan came as a representative of the Wang family. The Wang family didn't have any golden core cultivators. It could be said that the Wang family was the weakest among all the guests, so they should be the first to give gifts. He arrived at the place where he received the gifts. The person receiving the gifts was a middle-stage Zifu disciple. He wasn't young, and he was dressed in a long violet robe. Wang Daoyuan handed him a gift box and a list of gifts. The purple-robed cultivator bowed and said, "Jade Spring Wang family, 20 purple rhyme pills, 50 meridian shielding pills, and 10 grade 3 low-grade golden lightning demon exterminating talismans." Upon hearing this, the cultivators lining up behind him began to whisper among themselves. A late-stage Zifu disciple asked softly, "What sort of power is the Jade Spring Royal Clan? I've never heard of such a Jindan stage clan." Moreover, this gift was quite extravagant. 10 third-level low-grade thunder talismans are worth at least 300,000 to 400,000 spirit stones. Adding the purple rhythm pill and the meridian shield pill, it's worth at least 500,000 to 600,000 spirit stones. A well-informed cultivator at the side replied, "The Wang clan of Jade Spring Peak in the state of Zhao's Qingli County is located in the northeasternmost corner of human territory. To the north was Mount Huiyan, and to the east was the Heaven/Mountain Range. In the past, it was also a Jindan stage clan, the founder of the Jade Spring Royal Clan. Adept Jade Spring was a vicious figure. However, when the three great sects overthrew the Zhao clan, Adept Jade Spring died in battle and the Wang clan surrendered. Ever since then, the Wang clan has been in decline for 300 years. In recent years, it has begun to rise again. Now, it has 3 Zifu disciples, and all of them have the potential to form a Jindan. Today's main character, Wang Daoyin, is a member of the Jade Spring Royal Clan. The person who came to deliver the gifts is Wang Daoyuan, Wang Daoyin's older brother." The cultivator who had asked the question earlier nodded. "I was wondering why the name, Jade Spring, sounded so familiar. So it's a clan founded by Adept Jade Spring. In the past, when Adept Jade Spring was a mid-stage Jindan cultivator, he was able to instantly kill a late-stage Jindan cultivator. However, why would a Zifu disciple clan like the Wang clan give such a valuable gift? This is something you don't know. Wang Daoyin's older brother, Wang Daoyuan, is a genius who is proficient in all 4 Das, and is a low-grade 3rd-level Das. Why would such a person care about a few 100,000 spirit stones?" The cultivator from the Savage Sun Palace who came to congratulate them was a bit unhappy. He mocked, "He's just a 5 spirit root trash. What's the use of having powerful pill, tool, and talisman arrays?" A young man said contemptuously, "Where did this frog come from? You're a 3 spirit root holder. Your cultivation speed is slow, and your 5 elements are not balanced. Tens of thousands of years ago, your cultivation talent was the worst. How dare you mock 5 spirit roots?" This man was wearing a silver robe with a 5-colored phoenix pattern embroidered on it. The 5-colored phoenix pattern was a clan emblem that only the direct descendants of the Zhou clan could use. The cultivators of the Savage Sun Palace knew that they could not afford to offend him. He held his breath and his face turned red, but he did not dare to say anything. After Wang Daoyuan delivered the gifts, he was led by a Peak Foundation establishment cultivator to the back of the auditorium to wait. The cultivators outside were still queuing up to deliver the gifts, and the sound of the ceremony could be heard. The last three clans were the Wind Snow Deity Palace, the Archaic Mysteries Sect, and the Tai Sword Sect. These three, along with the Divine Weapon Pavilion, were the four major powers in Beiyuan Xiuxian on the surface. There was also the Blood Shadow in the dark. Each of them had dozens of golden core cultivators and half-step Yuanying cultivators. After all the guests delivered their gifts, they entered the auditorium, and the Purple Palace ceremony officially began. The process was almost the same, which was to praise Wang Daoyin and comfort the souls of the ancestors in heaven. After this process, Taoist Lei Yan said, "In addition to my personal disciple establishing the Purple Palace, I'm going to take in an in-name disciple. Daoyuan, come here." Wang Daoyuan walked in front of Taoist Lei Yan and bowed. "Master." Taoist Lei Yan continued, "This is the in-name disciple I'm going to take in, Wang Daoyuan. He's also Wang Daoyin's older brother." Then, he handed a piece of silk to He Yuanqing. He Yuanqing read the contents of the silk. The general content was praising Wang Daoyuan for his outstanding talent, and receiving Taoist Lei Yan's recognition as an in-name disciple. After reading it out, Wang Daoyuan kowtowed to Taoist Lei Yan. Since he was accepted as an in-name disciple, he only needed to kowtow 3 times. If he was accepted as a personal disciple, he would need to kowtow 3 times and kowtow 9 times. After bowing, Wang Daoyuan could be considered as an official disciple of Taoist Lei Yan. At this moment, a golden core female cultivator wearing a white dress and a veil smiled. "Taoist Lei Yan, you've praised your 2 disciples to the heavens. I wonder if they're really capable. It's not easy for so many powers to gather here. Why don't we let the juniors exchange pointers?" Just as she finished speaking, an old man wearing a dark golden robe said, "Taoist Ning Shuang's words are reasonable. Taoist Lei Yan, I wonder if your disciple dares to exchange pointers with our disciple?" Taoist Lei Yan snorted coldly. "Taoist Shenlei, Taoist Ning Shuang, I knew you two would come looking for trouble. I didn't want to hurt the harmony on this joyous occasion, but you two just had to bring shame to yourselves." Taoist Ning Shuang didn't say anything else, but Taoist Shenlei retorted, "Old Lei Yan, you're really not afraid of biting your tongue. I admit that I'm not your match, but your eye for disciples is truly lacking. Those in-name disciples from before didn't even have much hope of forming a golden core. This Wang Daoyin's talent isn't bad, and his future is limitless. But he's only just established the Violet Palace realm and is still lacking. I wonder how strong this new in-name disciple of yours is. He's a good seedling for being able to cultivate to the Violet Palace realm with Penta spiritual roots. But with the current lack of spiritual qi, Penta spiritual roots won't be able to do much." Beside Taoist Ning Shuang stood a woman wearing a white dress and a veil. She didn't look old, but she was also an early-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator. She snorted coldly, "Traitor of the Wang clan, do you dare to fight this princess?" Chapter 403. Wang Daoyuan was stunned. Since this person called him a traitor, she was most likely from the Zhao family. However, calling herself a princess was a big problem. Emperor Lai of Zhao had been dead for more than 400 years, and this woman was only around 100 years old. How could she be a princess? He asked curiously, "Which country's princess are you from? Why are you slandering my Wang family?" The woman said angrily, "I'm the granddaughter of Emperor Lai of Zhao, the daughter of the new emperor of Zhao. Your Wang family was a subject of my Zhao family, but the 3 sects rebelled. Instead of quelling the rebellion, you joined the underworld sect. If you're not a traitor, then what are you?" Wang Daoyuan was even more confused. After Emperor Lai of Zhao's death, only the 9th prince was supported by the Zhao family. However, he didn't proclaim himself emperor. How could he be the new emperor of Zhao? The woman said proudly, "The new emperor of Zhao is naturally the 6th son of Emperor Lai of Zhao." Wang Daoyuan couldn't hold back his laughter. "You're talking about the long-legged prince who only knew how to run?" He had more than 10 experts of the Zhao family. When his elder brother was surrounded, he just watched as his elder brother was killed. After that, he didn't want to avenge his father and brother. Instead, he only wanted to escape to Linhai Prefecture and save his life. When he escaped, My ancestor killed the Grand Elder of the Savage Sun Palace. The pursuers lost their courage. The long-legged prince had several golden core cultivators with him. Together with the golden core cultivators who came to support him, they didn't dare to attack. How could such a person proclaim himself emperor? The long-legged prince wasn't even crowned king. You're not even qualified to be a princess, so don't call yourself a princess. Everyone in the hall burst into laughter. Everyone knew what had happened in the state of Zhao. Emperor Lai of the three princes, the first prince was kind, the ninth prince was resolute, and the sixth prince was useless. He was cruel and merciless, but he was also a coward. When the three sects targeted him, he immediately ran away before the battle even started. The long-legged prince's nickname was appropriate. Hallmaster Gu laughed until tears came out. The Wang family's declaration was breaking off relations with the sixth prince. If the ninth prince's bloodline did not show themselves, then the sixth prince's bloodline was the real threat. The Wang clan breaking ties with the sixth prince was equivalent to breaking ties with the Zhao clan. He was naturally very happy. Wang Daoyuan had never thought of having anything to do with the sixth prince. Even if he had a backup plan, he would only deal with the ninth prince. At least the people of the ninth prince's bloodline had brains and were responsible. The elder of the Cruel Sun Palace had an ugly expression on his face. Why did they bring out the ancestors of Cruel Sun Palace when the two sides were cursing each other? When the sixth prince's daughter heard her father being scolded, she was furious and was about to attack. Taoist Master Ningshuang coughed lightly and said, "Qingshuang, don't be rude." Zhao Qingshuang calmed down for a moment before rebuking angrily, "Your Wang family's Jade Spring Peak was bestowed to you by my grandfather. Since you've received the monarch's salary, you should be loyal to your monarch. You dare to insult Jun Shang. If you aren't a traitor, then what are you?" Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, "Zhao Lai Emperor bestowed the Jade Spring Peak to my ancestor for his meritorious service in killing the demonic beast. Back then, my Wang family had 1 golden core cultivator, 3 Violet Palace Realm cultivators, and more than 20 Foundation Establishment cultivators. After the battle, my Wang family only had 1 heavily injured Violet Palace Realm cultivator and 2 Foundation Establishment cultivators left. The heavily injured Violet Palace Realm cultivator didn't live for long. My ancestor killed 5 golden core cultivators for your Zhao family. In terms of merit, he was number 1. After the long-legged prince fled, the ninth prince was no match for the 3 great sections. His subordinates either fled to dangerous places or surrendered to the 3 great sections. My Wang family persisted until the very end. The Jade Spring Peak was the last piece of land that the Zhao family lost. The Wang family doesn't owe the Zhao family anything. On the contrary, the long-legged prince owes my ancestor his life. My ancestor has been a subject of Zhao Lai Emperor and the ninth prince, but he has never been a subject of the long-legged prince. Where did the insulting of Jun Shang come from? This time, the Cruel Sun Palace's cultivators felt much better when they didn't mention the name of Cruel Sun Palace. The cultivator wearing a 5-colored phoenix embroidered robe looked at Zhao Qingshuang with disdain. If my Zhou family had such a subject, it wouldn't be a big deal for me to be given a title of king and enjoy the imperial ancestral temple. Why is it that the Zhao family is calling him a traitor? The imperial Zhao family doesn't know what's good for them. It would be strange if they didn't perish. The cultivators of the various factions also agreed. Zhao Qingshuang looked at the cultivator surnamed Zhou, not daring to say anything. After all, Zhou and Qin were first-rate countries that were second only to the top factions. Zhou had been established for tens of thousands of years. Its foundation was so deep that even Qin couldn't compare. In the past, Zhao was also a first-rate country. But now, the Zhao family didn't have much left. They didn't have the right to quarrel with others. She turned to glare at Wang Daoyuan. "You little thief of the Wang family, do you dare fight me?" Wang Daoyuan said disdainfully, "I don't dare to say that I'm invincible in the same realm, but it won't take much effort to deal with you." The two of them arrived outside the hall. There was a huge square outside. This was the core of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Every building was protected by a formation. Early-stage Zifu realm cultivators couldn't shake these buildings at all. When the two of them arrived outside the hall, the others also walked out and watched from the side. Zhao Qingshuang was full of anger and attacked first. She waved her right hand, and 3 ice swords appeared out of thin air and attacked Wang Daoyuan. After all, Zhao Qingshuang was a golden core disciple. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be careless. After connecting with the white tiger blade, he hadn't used it yet. It was a good opportunity to test the power of the white tiger blade on Zhao Qingshuang. Wang Daoyuan stood with his hands behind his back. After taking out the white tiger blade, the blade flickered with a cold light. A sword beam flew out, and the 3 ice swords shattered into ice shards. Perfected Lei Yan was delighted. Perfected Ningxuang's expression was a little ugly. Zhao Qingshuang took out a long sword. This long sword was transparent, as if it was carved out of ice. There was even a faint mist on the sword. Wang Daoyuan was so envious that he almost drooled. This was a long sword refined from mystic ice jade essence. How could a fallen royal family like the Zhao family have such wealth? She waved the long sword, and a cold wind wrapped in ice mist attacked Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately used smoke escape and dodged the ice mist, retreating more than a mile away. The clouds left behind by smoke escape instantly turned into snow. Although this move was powerful, he didn't have to use his full strength. He took out the prairie fire sword and slashed out huge waves of flames. Flame Wave Slash was an unpresentable grade 3 Dharma spell. It was definitely not enough to deal with Zhao Qingshuang. Furthermore, the huge waves of flames he slashed out stopped in front of him and didn't seem to be an attack at all. Some of the cultivators at the side also looked disdainful. Zhao Qingshuang continued to attack with ice attribute Dharma spells. Wang Daoyuan controlled the white tiger blade to block all the attacks. After slashing out more than 10 flame wave slashes, a firewall that was 1,000 feet wide, more than 100 feet tall and 50 to 60 feet thick appeared in front of him. Then, he used the heaven-burning divine fire technique and condensed the phantom of the divine bird, Bai Feng, with a wingspan of only 100 feet. The phantom flapped its wings on the firewall and a fire whirlwind appeared out of thin air, sucking away the flames on the firewall. After absorbing the flames, the phantom grew rapidly and its wingspan soon exceeded 1,000 feet. After sucking away all the flames, the phantom flapped its wings and pounced towards Zhao Qingshuang. Zhao Qingshuang used the same trick again. A cold wind mixed with ice mist swept towards the phantom. The phantom flapped its wings and 2 balls of flames flew out. The flames and ice mist entangled, forming a red and white cyclone. After a few breaths, the flames and ice mist disappeared. Wang Daoyuan didn't idle either. He continued to wave the prairie fire sword, creating huge waves of flames to replenish the Bai Feng phantom spirit energy. Zhao Qingshuang's ice sword and ice rain were all neutralized by the Bai Feng phantom and the white tiger blade. She was extremely anxious. She couldn't win quickly with ordinary methods. She would definitely lose in a battle of attrition with the 5 spirit roots. Furthermore, Wang Daoyuan still had the white tiger blade that he had yet to unleash his true strength. She threw out the sword in her hand. The sword flew into the sky with a cold wind and ice mist. Then, a black cloud appeared out of thin air and a cold wind blew around. The flames on the Bai Feng phantom were weakening rapidly. Soon, countless 3-inch ice swords fell from the black cloud. Chapter 404. These ice swords were formed by the cold chi in the mystic ice jade marrow. The ice swords were not weak, and under Zhao Qingshuang's control, they had a certain degree of lethality. He could not leave them alone. Wang Daoyuan took out the black tortoise shield and injected spirit power and divine sense. A huge shield phantom appeared above his head. The ice swords were scattered and did not have the ability to break through the black tortoise shield. The Bai Feng phantom could not waste time there either. If it continued to be blown by the cold wind, it would dissipate soon. He controlled the Bai Feng phantom to pounce at the dark clouds in the sky. The dark clouds no longer expanded, nor did the ice swords fall. Even the cold wind stopped. Soon, the dark clouds began to shrink, finally condensing into an ice sword more than 100 feet long. At the center of the ice sword was Zhao Qingshuang's natal dermic artifact. Zhao Qingshuang used an escape technique and flew through the air. Holding the hilt of the giant's sword, she slashed at Wang Daoyuan with all her strength. The Bai Feng phantom flew up and was slashed into a rain of fire by the ice sword. If he used the black tortoise shield to take this attack, it would probably be heavily damaged and he would also be heavily injured. However, the Bai Feng phantom also slowed down the ice sword, giving Wang Daoyuan a chance to counterattack. He recalled the white tiger blade and held it with both hands. He injected spirit power and divine sense into the sword, and a giant sword phantom more than 100 feet long appeared. After comprehending the white tiger sword intent, this was the first time he used heaven-cleaving sword against an enemy. With the sword intent, heaven-cleaving sword's power had undergone a tremendous change. The entire phantom carried a murderous aura and seemed more solid. Wang Daoyuan did not block, but slashed at Zhao Qingshuang. He had the black tortoise shield to protect him. Zhao Qingshuang's ice sword could at most heavily injure the shield. At this moment, Zhao Qingshuang put all her strength into the ice sword. If she was hit by heaven-cleaving sword, she would definitely die. From her words, one could tell that she was a person who did not know the dangers of the world. Her father and master were both golden core cultivators. Even so, it was difficult for them to encounter any difficulties, let alone face death. Wang Daoyuan was certain that she did not have the courage to risk her life, so he exchanged injury for life. As expected, Zhao Qingshuang was afraid. She gave up on attacking and waved her sword to block. However, how could she block Wang Daoyuan's powerful strike when she hastily returned to defend herself? When the two swords collided, Zhao Qingshuang was forced back, and some cracks appeared on her ice sword. Her mind was in a mess. Wang Daoyuan naturally took advantage of the situation to pursue and attack, repeatedly waving the giant sword in his hand. Zhao Qingshuang could only brandish her sword to barely block. Every time the two swords clashed, ice shards would splash out. Wang Daoyuan took advantage of her weakness and swung his sword, causing Zhao Qingshuang's ice sword to fly out of her hand. He slashed out with his sword again. Zhao Qingshuang had no time to retract her sword and could only use her escape technique to dodge. The sky-cleaving sword slashed the ice giant's sword. At this time, the ice giant sword did not have the support of its owner's spiritual power and was smashed to pieces. The flying sword wrapped in the ice giant sword was also sent flying. At this moment, the power of the heaven-slaying sword had been exhausted, so Wang Daoyuan simply dispersed the heaven-slaying sword. Zhao Qingshuang wanted to retract her intrinsic Dharma artifact and fight again, but Wang Daoyuan had finally gained the upper hand. How could he let her have her way? His right hand pointed at Zhao Qingshuang, and the white tiger blade attacked in the direction he pointed. Zhao Qingshuang had no time to retract her intrinsic Dharma artifact. She could also see that Wang Daoyuan had nurtured the white tiger blade to the point where it could move according to his heart's desire. Even if she used her escape technique to dodge, the flying sword would still catch up to her and she would be in an even more passive position. She had no choice but to take out a third-grade inferior ice blue flying sword to meet the white tiger blade head-on. The white tiger blade arrived, but Zhao Qingshuang blocked it with her sword. How could an ordinary flying sword, especially one used in a hurry, block the white tiger blade? The tip of the white tiger blade stabbed the ice blue flying sword, directly cutting it in two. With the sword in her hand destroyed, the white tiger blade went straight for her throat. Zhao Qingshuang leaned back, wanting to dodge the attack. Perfected Ningxuang wanted to attack, but perfected Lei Yan released his aura to intimidate her. Wang Daoyuan naturally didn't dare to actually kill Zhao Qingshuang. He flicked his sword finger upwards, raising the white tiger blade as well. The blade brushed past her nose. Wang Daoyuan did his best to restrain his sword qi, and thus didn't leave a single wound on her face, only cutting off a few strands of her hair. Seeing that her disciple was safe and sound, perfected Ningxuang let out a sigh of relief. Qingshuang, come back. This kid has been through hundreds of battles. Even if you are stronger than him, you won't be able to defeat him. What's more, this kid's power is superior to most Middle Zifu disciples. Kid surnamed Wang, thank you for being merciful and sparing my disciple's life. The grudge between me and Lei Yan is now written off. Wang Daoyuan withdrew his magic artifact, then clasped his hands. Senior, you speak too seriously. We were just sparring, so naturally I wouldn't dare injure Zhao Daoyu. Zhao Qingshuang had just experienced life and death. She didn't have the courage to fight again. Dejected, she returned to perfected Ningxuang's side. Wang Daoyuan secretly sighed to himself. It was a pity that he hadn't been able to witness the music legacy of the Wind Snow Deity Palace. The Celestial Arcanum Sex perfected Sky Diviner smiled. Rumor has it that the Guiyuan Sword Codex was created by an ancient powerhouse. However, the legacy is incomplete and doesn't have much power. However, martial nephew Daoyuan's heaven-cleaving sword seems to be quite extraordinary. In the future, you might be able to learn the essence of the Beiyuan sword codex. Wang Daoyuan clasped his hands. Senior, you flatter me. He looked up and saw a youth standing beside the perfected sky diviner. He was also at the early Zifu realm and looked rather familiar. He probed, Are you Daoyu Zhou? The youth smiled. I was wondering why you looked so familiar. So it's Wu Daoyu. I wonder if you've safely survived your romantic calamity? Wang Daoyuan smiled. It really is Daoyu. Thanks to Daoyu's reminder, I made a lot of preparations and narrowly escaped death. The person who schemed against us back then was also killed by me. Perfected Sky Diviner asked, is martial nephew Daoyuan the Wu Daoyu you mentioned? Zhou Xian replied, Granduncle, that Wu Daoyu is indeed junior brother Wang. A purple light flashed in Perfected Sky Diviner's eyes as he revealed a shocked expression. Of course, he quickly covered it up. The others also didn't dare to stare at a golden core perfected master, so they didn't notice his abnormality. He nodded and said, Martial nephew Wang is indeed a talent. Before he finished speaking, Perfected Xianlei shouted, Brat Wang, you seem to be a sword cultivator too. I wonder if you can spar with my disciple? The black-clothed youth beside Perfected Xianlei stepped forward and clasped his hands. I'm Kuei Jian, Perfected Xuanlei's disciple. Junior brother Wang. Please teach me a thing or two. Wang Daoyuan's expression turned serious. This person had a thunder attribute spirit energy fluctuation, and also had the sword cultivation legacy of the Tai sword sect. A thunder attribute sword cultivator who had previously dealt with Lei Wudao, who was indeed difficult to deal with. The Tai sword sect's legacy was much stronger than that of the Cruel Sun Palace. This Kuei Jian was also valued by Perfected Xianlei. His battle strength of the same rank would not be weaker than Lei Wudao. Just as Wang Daoyuan was about to speak, the cultivator wearing a 5-colored phoenix-patterned robe stepped forward and said with a smile, You guys are a bit of a bully. Daoyu just fought a battle and consumed a lot of spirit energy and divine sense. I can't stand to see injustice, so I'll fight fellow Daoist Kuei first. After that you guys can spar. That's fair. Wang Daoyuan clasped his hands. Thank you for your kind intentions, Zhou Daoyu. However, I'm a Penta Spirit Veins cultivator and I'm least afraid of a battle of attrition. Then he took out a jar of Spirit Peach Dew and drank it in one gulp. My spirit energy has more or less recovered and I still have more than half of my divine sense left. Daoyu is a sword cultivator and I'm also a dabbler in sword cultivation. If the two of us fight, we won't consume much of our divine sense. At this moment, Perfected Xianlei gave Perfected Sky Glimpse a look. Perfected Sky Glimpse smiled. The talents of the Zhou clan have also appeared. It's really a gathering of geniuses. However, no matter how the three of them fight, it won't be fair. You go and spar with the prince of the Zhou clan first so that martial nephew Wang can rest for a while. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself that the archaic Arcanum sect was indeed a fortune-teller. They were really slippery in dealing with people. Letting Zhou Xian spar with the Zhou clan's royal descendants, he did not want to offend either the Tai sword sect or the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Chapter 405. No one had any objections. Wang Daoyuan retreated to the side of the field, and Wang Daoyin brought over a bottle of divine sense recovery pills. Wang Daoyuan ate the pills and meditated to recover his divine sense. The Zhou Nation royal disciple cupped his hands and said, Zhou Nation's Zhou Jingyuan greets Daoyu. As soon as he said that, there was a commotion. Zhou Jingyuan was not a nobody. He was the son of the current Emperor Zhou, and also his most talented son. No wonder he dared to meddle in the affairs of the four top forces. Although Zhou Nation's strength was inferior to the four top forces, the gap was not too big. The four top forces did not dare to underestimate Zhou Nation. Zhou Xian also returned the greeting. Archaic Mysteries Sect Xian Zhouxiao greets Daoyu. Both of them were disciples of major forces, and their etiquette was very considerate. After the greeting, Zhou Jingyuan was the first to attack. He waved his hand and shot out a few golden feathers. These golden feathers were similar to the feather blades in Wang Daoyuan's golden rock fighting dragon technique. Xian Zhouxiao condensed a ball of spirit energy in his hand, which turned into a few blue stars and hit the golden feathers. The feathers and the stars collided and disappeared. The two of them simply tested each other, and the spells they used were much more advanced than the meteor fall technique. After that, Zhou Jingyuan shot out a few metal-type spells. Xian Jiuxiao also dissolved them one by one. So far, Wang Daoyuan could not tell what attribute his spirit energy was. Every time Xian Jiuxiao used a spell, it was something related to the stars. His spirit energy was somewhat like the water attribute, but it was obviously different. The fortune-tellers of the archaic mysteries sect really knew how to play tricks. The two of them had no enmity, and there was no need to determine the winner. It was just a simple spell competition, and they did not use high-level spells or artifacts. After 15 minutes of sparring, Wang Daoyuan's divine sense had completely recovered. Xian Jiuxiao and Zhou Jingyuan stopped sparring, and it ended in a draw. Zhou Jingyuan walked to Wang Daoyuan's side and smiled. "Fellow Daoist, you're a genius. If you can come to my Zhou country in the future, I'll definitely treat you as an honored guest." This was a blatant attempt to poach. Hall Master Gu's expression turned ugly. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Your Highness, I appreciate your kind intentions. However, I'm focused on cultivation, so I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint your Highness." Zhou Jingyuan said with a bit of regret, "With Daoyou's ability, his achievements won't be below that of Venerable Devil vanquishing in the future. With such a character, it wouldn't be difficult for him to establish his own sect. It was me who had overestimated myself." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Your Highness is too kind." After saying that, he walked to the center of the square. Kuei Jian also walked forward, and the two of them bowed to each other. This guy was a straightforward person. He immediately took out a blue long sword. Lightning flashed on the sword, and the engraving on the hilt was a Kuei cow. The Kuei ox looked like both an ox and a dragon. It was a divine beast that could control lightning. Its strength was not weaker than divine beasts like dragons and phoenixes. His intrinsic dermic artifact had a sculpture of the Kuei ox, so his Violet Palace phenomenon was most likely related to the Kuei ox. In this way, Wang Daoyuan wouldn't have any advantage in terms of intrinsic dermic artifact. Kuei Jian took the initiative to attack. His long sword floated in front of him, and with a flash of blue light, a long sword image flashed with lightning and slashed at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan also summoned the white tiger blade, which floated in front of him. Two sword rays flew out, slashing at Kuei Jian's long sword image. The two sword rays were broken, and the long sword image dissipated. Kuei Jian held the long sword with both hands and slashed at Wang Daoyu. This time, there was no sword ray or long sword image. Instead, a bolt of blue lightning flew out from the long sword. Wang Daoyuan immediately used the demon-resisting sword bell. Dozens of long sword phantoms formed a bell shape to protect him and take the lightning head-on. The demon-resisting sword bell's power was not bad. It withstood the lightning attack, and only 4 or 5 long sword images shattered. They could be restored at any time. Kuei Jian smiled. "Daoyou's strength is high. Small fights are meaningless. I'm going to use my strongest attack. Daoyu, be careful." Before he finished speaking, the spiritual energy on his body gathered on the long sword in his hand. The long sword in his hand let out clanging sword cries, which were mixed with thunder and beast roars. Purple light flickered between his brows, letting out the same sound. This was the resonance of the Violet Palace. The thunder and beast roars should have come from the Kuei ox. The Kuei ox definitely wasn't the only Kuei ox that could let out sword cries. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be negligent. He poured a sea of spiritual energy and spiritual sense into the white tiger blade, holding the hilt with both hands. A tiger's roar resounded as the white tiger blade's power was released. A domineering, imposing, and dangerous aura was emitted. In terms of aura, the white tiger blade wasn't inferior to its opponent. However, Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to use the resonance of the Violet Palace. He had told Luo Jiuyo that his avatar was 5 quasi-divine beasts. Now that his Violet Palace avatar was resonating with the white tiger blade, it was clearly telling everyone that his Violet Palace avatar had a divine white tiger. At that time, it would be strange if Luo Jiuyo didn't make things difficult for him. He used the white tiger blade to execute the sky-cleaving sword. After condensing a 300-meter-long illusory sword, he compressed it to 20 meters long. Soon, a 20-meter-long illusory sword appeared in Kuei Jian's hand. It was exactly the same as his natal dermic artifact. This illusory sword should be Kuei Jian's natal dermic artifact. In that case, Kuei Jian's Violet Palace avatar should be exactly the same as his natal dermic artifact. It should also be a long sword with a Kuei ox carving. For a true sword cultivator like him, he had been cultivating sword art since the Qi refinement stage. When he reached the foundation establishment stage, he would begin to refine the embryonic form of his natal dermic artifact and nurture it. Since they had interacted with swords from a young age, it was most likely for a long sword avatar to appear when they opened their Violet Palace. This long sword avatar was exactly the same as the natal dermic artifact itself and the natal dermic artifact's natal dermic artifact. The three could be combined into one. In Wang Daoyuan's situation, it could only be that his Violet Palace avatar was compatible with the natal dermic artifact's natal dermic artifact, but not with the dermic artifact itself. If the three couldn't be combined into one, the strength he could unleash would naturally be reduced. After all, he was a half-baked sword cultivator. Without early nurturing, he was destined to be a half-baked sword cultivator. If he could defeat a true sword cultivator just by casually cultivating some sword arts, then sword cultivation wouldn't be anything worth praising. To Wang Daoyuan, the path of sword cultivation was only a supplementary method. But to Kuei Jian, it was all his heart's work. It was normal that Wang Daoyuan couldn't compare to Kuei Jian on the path of sword cultivation. He didn't expect to rely on the white tiger blade to defeat Kuei Jian. After the two finished accumulating their spiritual power, they swung their long swords. As Wang Daoyuan expected, the sky-cleaving sword was directly chopped into two upon contact with Kuei Jian's long sword avatar. As for his long sword avatar, it only became much dimmer, and the speed at which it chopped down also became slightly slower. Wang Daoyuan immediately controlled the Xuanwu shield, creating an avatar of the Xuanwu to protect himself. His hands weren't idle either, and he began to use the Earth Divine Thunder. Long before coming to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, he had already converted all the spiritual power in his body. There was no special attribute at all. Using the Earth Divine Thunder, he wasn't afraid that others would discover the problem with his technique. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan's Earth Divine Thunder could be used 3 times in a breath. Its power was equivalent to 20 times that of a third-level low-grade sharpened metal divine sword talisman. No matter how powerful this strike was, Kuei Jian was only an early-stage Zifu disciple. As long as there were enough Earth Divine Thunders, they would be able to break this strike. When the Earth Divine Thunder smashed into the longsword avatar, it exploded, constantly depleting the power of his strike, and also slowing down the speed at which it was descending. After 3 breaths of time, the longsword avatar took 10 Earth Divine Thunders before it finally landed on the Xuanwu avatar. The Xuanwu avatar didn't last for long either, and was quickly destroyed. Kuei Jian's longsword avatar shattered along with it. Wang Daoyuan had taken this strike head-on. Wang Daoyuan once again formed an Earth Divine Thunder in his hand, but Kuei Jian had already used up all of his energy. He was somewhat incredulous. A single sword strike can break all techniques. Why is it that my full power strike was unable to defeat you? Wang Daoyuan laughed. If a single sword strike can break all techniques, why can't all techniques break a single sword strike? Chapter 406. Hearing this, Kuei Jian was stunned. Ever since he was young, the elders of the sect had told him that the sword was the strongest in the world. He had never considered why one sword could break 10,000 techniques. Now, Wang Daoyuan's 10,000 arts break one sword made him somewhat at a loss. His face was ashen, and his eyes were dim. Wang Daoyuan was also a little scared. Sword cultivators believed that one sword could break 10,000 techniques, which was the unconventional path. Once this belief was shattered, they might feel as if the entire world was collapsing. At that time, their Dao heart might collapse. If they could walk out of it and rebuild their Dao heart, they would be even stronger in the future. If they couldn't walk out of it, their future cultivation would be completely hopeless. Therefore, those who walked the Dao of sword cultivators were either extremely talented and could really break 10,000 techniques with one sword, or they were stubborn, unable to shake their belief no matter how hard they tried. Kuei Jian clearly belonged to the former, as he could really break 10,000 techniques with one sword. Now that he was defeated by Wang Daoyuan at the same cultivation level, it meant that the sword wasn't the strongest. He fell into self-doubt, and his Dao heart might collapse, and he would no longer believe in the Dao of sword cultivators. Kuei Jian was also a top figure among his peers in Beiyuan Xiuxian. If he was crippled because of his words, then he would really have a death feud with the Tai sword sect. Sure enough, when Taoist Xianlei saw Kuei Jian's state, he shouted angrily, "Brat Wang, if my disciple's Tao heart collapses, I'll fight you to the death." Hearing this, Taoist Lei Yan was unhappy. "My disciple is speaking the truth. You guys always shout that one sword can break 10,000 techniques. Why don't you use your sword to break this old man's lightning technique?" Taoist Xianlei wasn't Taoist Lei Yan's opponent, and they were in the Divine Weapon Pavilion's territory. If things got out of hand, he would be the one to suffer. He didn't speak anymore, only glaring at Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands. "There are too many people here, why don't we find a secluded place and I'll enlighten Daoyu?" Taoist Lei Yan said, "Follow me." Wang Daoyuan and his brother followed Reverend Thunderflame. Reverend Profound Thunder also brought the Kuei sword and followed behind. The few of them arrived at a quiet little house. Spiritual Master Lei Yan said, "This is the house where the disciples of my Divine Weapon Pavilion are confined. No matter what is said here, no one outside can hear." Reverend Profound Thunder nodded and said, "Brat surnamed Wang, what do you have to say now?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Senior Xianlei, my understanding of sword cultivation is that I first believe that the sword is the strongest in the world. One sword can break all the skills and all living things in the world. When the natal Dhamma artifact was nurtured to the point of becoming one with the sword cultivator would change from believing that the sword was the strongest to believing that he was the strongest in the world. The belief that a sword cultivator could break all laws with a single sword was merely paving the way for their own invincibility. I wonder if I'm right?" Taoist Profound Thunder nodded and said, "That's indeed the case. It was only when I reached the early golden core stage and became one with the sword that I comprehended the sword cultivator's belief in the sword. It was to pave the way for my own invincibility. It is indeed rare for a half-baked sword cultivator like you to be able to comprehend the Tao. However, it is easy to say but difficult to do. When you have just stepped onto the path of cultivation, even Qi refinement cultivators can easily kill you. Surrounded by people stronger than you, how can you believe that you are invincible? Sword cultivators use the sword as a carrier. From believing that the sword is invincible, they gradually cultivate the belief that they are invincible. This is a necessary process. Who can always firmly believe that they are the strongest?" Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "I can." Taoist Profound Thunder had a look of disbelief. Only those who had comprehended the belief of invincibility would know how difficult this path was to walk. Even Golden Core cultivators, or even half-step Yuanian cultivators, would never be able to believe that they were invincible in their entire lives. This was also the most fundamental reason why sword cultivators were so powerful. Because sword cultivators used the sword as a carrier, it was easier to cultivate the belief of invincibility. And the belief of invincibility might be more important than powerful spells and inheritances. Taoist Profound Thunder had a look of disbelief. "You have never encountered an opponent that you could not defeat and have never run away?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "I have, and many times. If I can't beat them, I will run. If I can't escape, I will admit defeat and pretend to be a coward. If my strength is inferior, will I just throw away my life? When my cultivation catches up, I will take revenge. As long as I kill them all, I will still be invincible." Taoist Master Profound Thunder shot him a glance and said, "I've finally seen through you. You're a pain in the neck, a two-faced man, and a two-faced man with conviction. Sigh. If only I had discovered you earlier and accepted you as my disciple. An invincible belief that cannot be defeated is most suitable for the path of sword cultivators. Unfortunately, your Purple Mansion phenomenon is not a sword. If you walk the path of sword cultivators, you will never reach the peak." When Kuei Jian heard Wang Daoyuan's words, there was a glimmer of light in his eyes. He asked, "Daoyu, can you tell me about your experience of running away?" Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "When I was at the 7th level of Qi refinement, I traveled to the Green Willow province of the Sky/Mountain Range. When I was picking spirit herbs, I was chased by a pack of black cloud wolves. I ran for hundreds of miles in the Sky/Mountain Range and finally jumped off a cliff to save my life. When my cultivation reached the 9th level of Qi refinement, I went to find the pack of black cloud wolves when I was free and beat the Wolf King until he ran away like a rat. After a few years of torment, The Wolf King could not bear the humiliation and gave up the territory with the wolf pack. With Wang Daoyuan's current cultivation and his identity as Taoist Lei Yan's disciple, it did not matter if things that could not be exposed in the past were exposed. For example, the myriad spirit sect could not say anything about the soul-chasing bees. Wang Daoyuan often went in and out of the sky/mountain range, so it was not impossible for him to find the soul-chasing bees. Even if the myriad spirit sect had their suspicions, they did not dare to act rashly. The Wang family was no longer a small family that could be exterminated at will. Taoist Profound Thunder said with disdain, "What are you doing? Even the black cloud wolves that are loyal to their territory were bullied away by you." At this moment, Kuei Jian's eyes also had some vigor. He looked at Wang Daoyuan and said solemnly, "Then I'll treat you as the black cloud wolf that chased after me. Sooner or later, I'll be able to defeat you too. Although I can't believe that I'm invincible now, I'll definitely be able to do it in the future. Master, I'm going out to train and rely on myself to fight for the belief of being invincible." Taoist Profound Thunder revealed a smile. Kuei Jian had walked out of defeat and was no longer in danger of his Tao heart collapsing. In time, with the belief of being invincible, his strength would also improve by leaps and bounds. Wang Daoyuan also heaved a sigh of relief. If a golden core of the Tai sword sect bore a grudge against them, the Wang family would have a hard time in the future. Taoist Profound Thunder patted Wang Daoyuan's shoulder and said, "You helped Kuei Jian protect his Tao heart. With his talent, he'll soon be able to believe that he's invincible. This belief of being invincible took me hundreds of years, but you helped Kuei Jian save hundreds of years. I've never owed anyone favors. Your natal magic weapon should be the inheritance of Taoist subduing demon. I have a material that's quite suitable for you, but it's useless to keep it. Just treat it as returning your favor." With that said, he took out an earthy yellow stone the size of a baby's fist and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. This stone did not have any spirit energy fluctuations and felt like an ordinary stone. Wang Daoyuan did not think much of it and only took it carefully. Once the stone entered his hand, Wang Daoyuan suddenly felt heavy. His body staggered and he barely managed to stand. This small stone actually weighed thousands of kilograms. Wang Daoyuan asked in surprise, "This is a heaven-suppressing stone? This is worth millions of spirit stones. I dare not accept it." Taoist Profound Thunder praised, "What a strong physical strength. I thought it would make you fall. This is indeed a heaven-suppressing stone. Sword cultivators have no need for this at all. It's useless for me to keep it, so just accept it." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I indeed need this item very much, so I won't refuse it. Just treat it as me owing Senior a favor. If Kuei Jian Daoyu has any difficulties, I'll definitely do my best to help." Wang Daoyuan only said to do his best to help, not to go all out. Taoist Profound Thunder laughed. "That's the bad thing about you, kid. You're too scheming and you're lacking in weight when you make promises. Lei Yan, why did you take a fancy to such a disciple?" Chapter 407. Lei Yan said helplessly, "Your Tai sword sect is really convenient. Everyone in the sect is one-track minded. After the sect members die in battle, there are still people to take care of the family. Our divine weapon pavilion's people are too complicated. After I die, without a gold core disciple, we might not even be able to keep the inheritance. Dao Yuan is cunning and has the potential to form a gold core. After I die, he will be the one to hold up the sect." Taoist Shenlei also sighed and said, "Tai sword sect is also not a harmonious group. Every family has its own problems. Kuei Jian's matter is settled. I will not disturb you any longer. Goodbye." The group left the small house and came to the square where the battle took place. Everyone was still waiting to watch the show. However, they saw that the two groups were harmonious and Kuei Jian's expression was not as dejected as before. They knew that the matter was settled. Since the show was over, everyone bid farewell and left. Xian Jiuxiao also came to greet Wang Daoyuan. "Dao Yu, come to Archaic Arcanum sect when you are free. I will check if there are any more love affairs." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "If I have the chance, I will definitely visit." After everyone left, Wang Daoyuan went to send Palace Master Gu off. "Palace Master, I will be staying in the Divine Weapon Pavilion for a while to practice the art of refining tools. I can't go back with you. Please tell the sect master not to blame me. Palace Master Gu waved his hand and said, Since you are Taoist Lei Yan's disciple, it is normal for you to stay here for a while. How can the sect master blame you? After sending Palace Master Gu off, Wang Daoyuan returned to Taoist Lei Yan's cave. After entering the cave, Taoist Thunderflame took out a fist-sized heaven-suppressing stone and handed it to him. That old man Xian Lei gave you a heaven-suppressing stone. I just remembered that I found one a long time ago. Unfortunately, I am of the lightning attribute and this thing is useless to me. The heaven-suppressing stone that Xian Lei gave you is still not enough to refine the Kirin seal. This one should be enough. I don't have anything good to give you, so this heaven-suppressing stone is a greeting gift. As for the earth essence, there's nothing I can do about it. It's just too rare. It's already not bad to be able to produce even one every few thousand years. Wang Daoyuan was not in a hurry to find the earth essence. After all, the heaven-suppressing stone was a Tier 4 material. With Wang Daoyuan's current ability, he was completely powerless. In order to forge a Kirin seal, one had to be at least at the late-stage Zifu disciple level, and one had to be at least at the low-grade 4th tier in artifact forging. Speaking of his natal Dharma artifact, he remembered that Zhou Wan had once warned him that Luo Jiuyo was not a good person and might leave some dirty tricks on his natal Dharma artifact. He had always wanted to find someone to take a look and see if there was any problem. However, Venerable Devil Vanquishing Demon's inheritance had passed through Luo Jiuyo's hands. The person who could see the problem must be a Jin Dan stage cultivator or a 4th-tier weapon refiner, and must be a reliable person. Such a person was hard to come by, and Taoist Thunderflame was the best candidate. Wang Daoyuan received the Heaven Suppression Stone and bowed. Many thanks, Master. Master, I obtained Taoist Devil Vanquishing's inheritance from Luo Jiuyo of the Netherworld sect. That person is very scheming, and I'm worried that he might do something to the inheritance. Disciple's talent is shallow, and I can't see any problems. I need to find a Jin Dan stage cultivator who is proficient in artifact forging to take a look, and they must be reliable. The only one I can think of is you. With that said, he took out a jade slip and a beast skin book given to him by Luo Jiuyo and gave it to Taoist Thunderflame. He had exchanged the jade slip with the golden Peng seizing dragon art after participating in the duel between the two sections. The beast skin book was a reward from Luo Jiuyo for assisting Wuqing pass. Taoist Thunderflame smiled. As expected, you're very cautious about everything. But that's fine. Those old geezers of the Netherworld sect are very treacherous. If you don't keep your guard up when dealing with them, you'll be easily tricked. Taoist Devil Vanquishing's inheritance is very famous, and many people have heard of it, but only a few have seen it. Even I haven't seen it before. However, if Luo Jiuyo had left something behind, I'll definitely be able to see it. With that said, he began to read the contents of the Beast Skin Book. The Beast Skin Book recorded the refinement method of the magic tool, as well as some of the accompanying spells. After reading for a while, Taoist Thunderflame said, There's nothing wrong with the contents recorded in the Beast Skin Book. Luo Jiuyo doesn't understand artifact forging, nor does he have the ability to alter the refinement method. This is a good thing. So far, the parts you've cultivated are still correct. You don't need to refine the magic tool again, which saves you a lot of effort. He picked up the jade slip again and carefully read its contents. 4 hours later he frowned. There's nothing wrong with these spells. They're all part of the 5 Elements Devil Vanquishing Seal supplementary spells. The only problem is how to combine the 5 magic tools into the 5 Elements Devil Vanquishing Seal. This combination method seems to have been modified. However, I'm still unable to determine where the problem lies. Show it to me. Wang Daoyuan nodded. I first obtained this combination spell, and then the refinement method. Previously, I saw that the combination spell was too weak, so I only cultivated the Azure Dragon Pearl to heal my injuries. Later, with the refinement method, I refined the White Tiger Blade and the Black Tortoise Shield. I also cultivated these 2 spells. There's still the Kirin Seal and the Vermilion Bird Fan that I haven't cultivated yet. Give me 5 days. I'll cultivate them. Taoist Thunderflame found it hard to believe, but he didn't say anything. In the following time, Taoist Thunderflame continued to taste the various delicacies that Wang Daoshu brought over, and teased Wang Mingting. Wang Daoyuan was diligently cultivating the 2 spells, as well as the key to the 5 Elements Devil Vanquishing Seal. 5 days later, the illusory images of 5 life-bound magic tools floated above Wang Daoyuan's head. The Kirin seal was in the middle, and the other 4 magic tools were in the 4 corners. Wang Daoyuan used the combination spell, but the Kirin seal remained unmoved. The other 4 illusory images turned into 4 streaks of light and merged into the Kirin seal. There weren't any obvious changes to the Kirin seal. The seal button was still a relief of the Kirin, but on the 4 sides of the seal, there were patterns of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. Daoist Thunderflame was eating and drinking when he sensed the power of the 5 elements devil vanquishing seal. He immediately walked over to Wang Daoyuan and exclaimed, "This is amazing. I've never seen someone with such powerful perception. You can condense the Kirin seal and the vermilion bird fan in 5 days, and even combine them into the 5 elements devil vanquishing seal. That's 3 spells in 5 days. Daoyuan, tell me the truth. Are you an acquired 5-element spiritual body?" Ever since he established his violet palace, the wisp of light from the spiritual bead had fused into his soul. He didn't feel anything at first, but as time passed, he realized that his perception was slowly increasing. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense was powerful, so it wasn't strenuous for him to maintain the 5 elements devil vanquishing seal. He smiled and said, "It should be. When I was young, my cultivation speed was comparable to a heavenly spiritual root, but it got slower and slower. But I feel that cultivating spells, alchemy, artifact, and array is very simple." Daoist Thunderflame nodded and said, "Then that's right. The acquired 5-element spiritual body has a limited effect on cultivation speed, but it has a huge impact on perception. I've really picked up a treasure. Daoyin, Zhaoliang, come over and help me." The 2 quickly walked over from their respective caves. Daoist Thunderflame instructed, "Daoyin, use your strongest spell to attack Daoyuan's 5 elements devil vanquishing seal." Wang Daoyin had great trust in his master and big brother, so he immediately condensed a ball of purple flames in his hand. There were also flashes of lightning within the flames. This should be a spell that Daoist Thunderflame created with the help of his violet palace. Wang Daoyin waved his hand and the fist-sized ball of purple flames flew towards the seal. When the flames collided with the seal, the flames turned into sparks that filled the sky, but the seal only became much dimmer. Daoist Thunderflame had been observing the seal with his spiritual sense. "I can see the problem. There's a flaw in the seal's combination method. Luo Jiuyo must have done something to the combination method." You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.